Hello again, everybody. Welcome to 4 Star Chicago Sports. This is the Barely There podcast, and we got a packed show tonight. OTAs, we're going to talk about Caleb's Arsenal and who is the number one. I know who I think is the number one, or I'm pretty sure is the number one. We'll find out what these guys think. And what else we got on the docket today? We're going to get Jay's opinion on, talk a little bit about this trade, the shift in the NFC. And we're going to find out, can the Bears contend with the likes of the Seahawks and the Rams? We'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to get into so much stuff with you chiming in and helping us out for the next couple of hours right after this.
Windy City banners rocking 4 stars align. Dynasty dreams rise, Bulls in their prime. Cubs curse shattered, the victory divine. Fields be running, clock ticking on my timeline. Shot-town heroes, legends never fade. Black Hawks flying, cutting ice with the blade. White Sox diamonds, the Southside parade. 4 stars shine bright, legacies they made. Mike with the crown, air rain, no dispute. Sweetness in the backfield, Walter in pursuit. Bear down Sunday's midfield, battles cute. Chicago.
Oh, hello again, everybody. Looks like we lost 2 people immediately. We got to get Fields off this thing. You know what I mean? Multi-Torin, welcome to the show. I don't know that I've seen you before, or you changed your name from somebody that we know from the past.
Help us out here, Taurine. Help us out.
We'll give you a clap anyways, as Cujo's
Eric in the house, Mikey in the house, Dante in the house, Breaking News Bruce in the house, Prophet in the house. What's going on, everybody?
All the usual suspects. What's going down?
What's going on, man? So how's everybody doing today on this fine Wednesday in Chicagoland?
I was tired, but for some reason, I feel like the podcast just energized me. I'm not tired anymore. So looking forward to talking some Bears and getting the chat. I got a feeling there's probably going to be a couple of topics that are going to get the chat fired up today.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we could start off with the big news of the day, and that's, OTAs. A lot of people, a lot of different reporters putting on a lot of different stuff, a lot of good stuff. I want to definitely get into this Arsenal because we've been talking about it for a while, and I'm hopefully going to make everyone a believer when we go inside some of these numbers right now and take a look at Luther Burden and how amazing he was last season. His analytics are unbelievable, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. And Erica, yes. And we're going to get right into that because I found that to be hilarious. So let's show everyone what Erica's talking about.
Page, we're speaking the same language, and that's always a good starting point. Oh my. Good.
Now that you've got a year under your belt, how does it feel? How do you feel about your position, what you're doing, the people you're working with?
Somebody want to take their phone, so I'm not interrupted again. Thanks.
He's
not happy.
Whoever's phone that was like, oh God, please don't ring again. Oh God.
I will tell you this.
I love it.
The one thing I took away from that entire press conference is one thing. Ben Johnson is all business, my friends. There ain't no messing around at Alice Hall, and it's rubbing off on the team when you start looking at some of the comments that some of these reporters have said out there, man. It's almost crazy to think about the change that's been here, but I'll give some takeaways and let you guys chime in here in just a second. This is from various reporters that were out there. It says Braxton Jones is looking is healthier, looking more comfortable, and Johnson says it's the best his body has felt in a while. He said he had no real thoughts on the Browns trade with the Rams, which I also thought was very, very funny, that little part of the press conference. He said Jalen Johnson is getting reps. He's pleased with where he is with his teammates. He went on to say they were asking about the O-line, and all this other stuff, and he said it's tough to fully evaluate O and D-line play without pads on, but he said he likes the direction in which they're changing. Bears feel good situationally, continuing to work through some game situations that will continue to come up during the season. Romadunze keeps getting better every day. Johnson praised his toughness, his team-first mindset. Ben Johnson of Romadunze said he's a team player. He's going to lay it all on the line every time he gets on the grass. I think his teammates appreciate that. His coaching staff certainly appreciates that. And hopefully we can get him 17-plus games this year so his career can take off. Xavier Thomas, when asked, he said Xavier Thomas is still learning rookie, but he's working hard, taking steps. One reporter put out there and said he made some plays today. It's going to be an uphill battle for me personally with Jahade Walker and Khalif Raymond in that room as well. The wide receiver returner competition should be fun to watch in camp. Of Jahade Walker, another reporter said he flashed today. He made a couple of nice grabs, looked quick, confident, and showed natural catching ability with the football. Jonah Jackson, he went on to say, is a glue guy, a physical competitor, paired with Darnell Wright. Johnson believes they can displace at the line of scrimmage. Those are good things to hear. Sam Roush, Cole Kmet had solid days, the tight end room. It's going to be a fun group. We've talked about that a few times. Also, something that was really cool, TJ Edwards and Deo were on the field. They didn't participate in practice, but seeing them out there is positive signs that we may have something from these guys this year. The most interesting thing that I wanted to talk about was Kyler Gordon and get your guys' opinion on this. Kyler Gordon, obviously injured last year, asked today about the trust level. He said, we're trying to get their availability with that availability piece. We know he's a good player when he's out there, but the trust level is a huge thing for this team, for this coaching staff, and for this locker room. And we can only develop that trust by being available. Kyler Gordon, once again, absent from practice, ladies and gentlemen. So, guys, a little bit on this OTA stuff. What are your early takeaways? What are your thoughts on some of this?
Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, back-to-back days with one-handed catches for Xavier Thomas following the first session of OTs in which he had a 50-yard touchdown. I mean, this guy's starting to look more and more like the real deal, man. I mean, I can't sit here and speculate as to how long it's going to be before he gets on the football field in the regular season, but he certainly looks like he's got some pretty good attributes as an athlete, man. And it seems like maybe the Bears found another one of these guys in the draft that really nobody was talking about, and he might be a stud. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part – I know the Montez Sweat wasn't there today, guys. I think that was more.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Probably a personal issue, if anything. I don't think there's anything to worry about when it comes to Montez Sweat. Kyler Gordon being out there yesterday, not being out there today is, I guess, a little concerning. Like you said earlier, Sean, it's way too early. We're talking about June here, so maybe it's precautionary. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, the big plays from some of these receivers. Luther Burden has looked phenomenal in OTAs. I think he's right now has the most receptions of anybody in OTAs. You saw the 65-yard pass in the air by Caleb Williams to Romadunze in the first session. You saw the 50-yard touchdown to Xavier Thomas. Both Brad Biggs, and I was a guy in ESPN 1000 this morning on the radio show who said he was absolutely in awe by Caleb Williams. Brad Biggs said Caleb Williams looks 10 times more comfortable this year than he did last year. I mean, it just sounds like everything is going to plan. All these players, once again, are bought in. And, man, somebody started the chat earlier. How good does it feel to have an actual head coach, guys?
Yeah. Jay?
Listen, it's one of the things I took away from that that presser. I kind of listened to it about an hour or so ago. He doesn't really put too much stock in these OTAs. And honestly, we'll talk about Caleb, I think, on the New Heights maybe later or not. But he even said, too, it's like, you're really just kind of not even installing anything. You know what I mean? You're running basic routes. Neither line is hitting each other. So I don't know how you can really evaluate either the offense or the defense, to be perfectly honest with you. You want to see guys making good plays, so that's good. But for me, Ben Johnson saying, because I think he was asked about Caleb Williams being a top 5 quarterback this year. And he said, I don't really care. I want wins. We're a team that's about wins. So I think that's great. And I think Eric had mentioned too, she liked his answer on the John Madden cover. He literally said, no concerns. I don't care. I don't care. He's all business, and that's all I want to hear and all I want to see. I want to see him pushing these guys because it'll trickle down. If he's serious about football, the players are going to be serious about football, and it should, in theory, result in more wins. Right now, though, injuries like Kyler Gordon's injury, I don't know if I really care. We were talking about it before the show started, Sean. I'm with you. If he's doing this in late July, we got problems. You know what I mean? Usually you'll see some hammy, some soft tissue in like early July when they first start out, because I think guys maybe aren't really fully conditioned for the super hot weather that we get up here and like the extreme humidity. But it is slightly concerning that, dude, it's always a soft tissue with this guy. Like what is going on?
It's really weird. It's really weird, man. And especially because he's out there at these camps and he's going to extra things to try to eliminate these things, and his body just doesn't seem to respond. It's very disappointing. It's kind of like, baseball. Our best pitchers can't stay on the mound. And, Kyler Gordon, for all intents and purposes, to me, going into the season, is our best defensive player, and we can't seem to keep him on the field. And I'm just really hoping that this is just precautionary. He's going to be all right, and we're going to get a number of games out of him, because we saw it in the Packers game and those last 3 games as he was on the field and got more reps. The first game he was back, it was kind of limited, but we saw it in that Packers game and that last Packers playoff game, the difference that he makes when he's on the field for this whole entire defense. He is a true difference maker in this league. So hopefully the Bears can figure this out. His body will respond to some treatment. We'll be able to keep Kyler Gordon on this field for, 13 to 14 games, because honestly, that makes a huge difference in this entire situation for the Bears on the defensive side of the ball.
You're right, Sean, because I think the healthiest that team was, that defensive squad all year, was in the playoffs, and they actually played their asses off. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the defensive's play in the playoffs. But at some point in time, you got to cut ties with the guy, because you can't keep swapping guys out at that position. It's not like a full rotation. We need him in there, and if he's not going to be available, then I guarantee you they'll move on from him. I just know it.
Yeah, and if we take a break from this, everyone wants to talk about the stadium deal. We might have a resolution here, guys. Again, if we go back to Monday, there was missteps by the Bears. The Bears should have been in Springfield. They shouldn't have waited to the last hour to slip that bill in after these guys have been going at it for a weekend. It's not all about the infrastructure. It's not all about the taxes. It's about the way the Chicago Bears have been handling this as well. If you listen to the politicians, they've been on the score the last couple of days. The Bears should have been in Springfield. They should have been pushing the envelope. From the beginning of this, the Illinois politicians said, look, we have X amount of problems in the state. Building a stadium for the Chicago Bears is not a situation that is going to be at the forefront. And the Bears have not only not put it to the forefront and tried to force Illinois into doing something, they've decided to take the back seat and relax and think, hey, we're the Chicago Bears. We can slip in and do whatever we want. The arrogance of the Chicago Bears is also a big issue in the stadium deal. So for me, I think Kevin Warren needs to do his fucking job. I said this on Monday.
I agree. Listen, the Bears they had a bunch of missteps. First of all, purchasing the land was the first mistake, but they should have had shit figured out before then. But Mayor Johnson was on Rahimi, and he said that in 24, they had an agreement with the Bears on a plan for the stadium. They sent it to the state, and the state did nothing with it.
Yeah, but I mean, listen,
I don't know what to tell you.
Erica says, and listen, Kevin Warren has certainly has his missteps for sure, no doubt about it. Especially since he went from Arlington Heights to Chicago to Indiana, back to Arlington Heights, back to Chicago. Like he's definitely created more problems. But if the stadium was never an issue, if the Bears never talked about building a new stadium, they're not moving out of Soldier Field, and Kevin Warren has done everything he's done to this point outside of the stadium deal, which we don't really understand a ton about because it's all politics. And I'm sure dealing with J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson is not a walk in the park by any means necessary. Outside of the stadium deal, which I agree that with everybody who says Kevin Warren has not done his job. Since Kevin Warren's been here, the Bears have completely changed their culture and become one of the most exciting Bears teams we've ever seen. So I wouldn't be so hasty to get Kevin Warren out of the building, because
when's the last time you guys ever heard a politician take blame for anything?
If there was no stadium conversation at all, if the Bears were like, hey, we never wanted to move, we're going to stay in Soldier Field for the rest of our lives, everybody would love what's happened since Kevin Warren has been hired by the Chicago Bears. Everybody would love it. They have become a completely different team. The culture has changed. They no longer play little brother to the Green Bay Packers. All the players have talked about the amenities, the facilities. Everything's gotten better. Ryan Poles has said numerous times that the coaching interview process got a lot better. The travel has gotten a lot better. The food's gotten better. Everything has gotten better. And by all accounts, it sounds like Kevin Warren is the buffer between George McCaskey and Ben Johnson, and Ryan Poles. So as long as he keeps doing what he's doing outside of the stadium stuff, which I agree with Sean 100%, he has not done a very good job of. Outside of that, and I know the Bears have to build a stadium, so people are going to be like, well, that's part of it. But outside of that, I think Kevin Warren has done a pretty damn good job as the Bears president of operations. He's certainly much better than Ted Phillips could ever have been. Ever.
I'll tell you this. Everyone can say that, and those points are very valid, Kyle. But if Kevin Warren is the reason the Bears leave the state of Illinois, his head will be on a stake. It
would be a collective effort, right? It would be everybody. It would be the state of Illinois.
I'll tell you this too: the fact that this came out, that report from a couple of months ago, that Kevin Warren was talking to or said it's between Arlington Heights and Indiana, and he was secretly given terms and working on a deal with Chicago at the same time, underhandedly behind everyone else's back. That's another snake move. That's another big misstep by this guy. Chicago's not going to fund it. Now they're saying that what's that empty hospital where they could go? I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Or building it on the south lot now is being brought up. That they're going to.
Yeah, and I understand. Like I said, I'm talking about, if you're talking about just completely away from the stadium, like don't mention the stadium and talk about Kevin Warren without saying the word stadium once, or Illinois legislator, or bureaucrats, or politics. Just talking about what Kevin Warren has done as the president of football operations for the Chicago Bears. Listen, I know it's unquantifiable. James says what has Warren done exactly. All I can do, guys, is go off of what I'm hearing out from the organization itself. Like, you guys, Kevin Warren pushed very hard for Matt Eberflus to be the first coach in NFL or Chicago Bears history to be fired in the middle of the season. They finally did it. He was the guy who convinced George McCaskey to pay one of the highest paid coaches in all the NFL, and Ben Johnson, give him $40 million guaranteed. From what I understand, he's been very instrumental in making sure that George McCaskey is not sticking his hands and fingerprints all over this team. And Kevin's like, hey, let Ryan do his job, let Ben do his job, and stay the hell out of it, Kevin. You are not a football guy. So let the football guys do the football stuff, and you focus on the business. And outside of it, like everything else I said, it sounds like Bears players are not free agents aren't so hasty to come here anymore, because the facilities have gotten better, the diet's gotten better, the food's gotten better, the amenities have gotten better, the travel's gotten better. Like, that's all I can go off of, guys. I don't know how much of that is true and how much is not, because I'm not in the building. I'm not there. I don't work for the Chicago Bears, so I can't tell you how much is true and how's not. But if it is true, if all the stuff I just talked about is true, and you guys have seen the culture change a little bit, you've seen the culture change in the last couple of years here in Chicago. We got ourselves a franchise quarterback. We got the best receivers who will ever have played for the Chicago Bears. We got a head coach. I mean, all of that has happened under Kevin Warren's tenure. I don't know how much of it is credited to him, how much isn't. I have no idea, but all I can say is, as a football fan, as a Bears football fan, and not talking about the stadium, I like the way that things have gone in the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't know about just like starting to fire people all over the place, because if they fire him and they bring back a guy like Ted Phillips and he comes in and replaces Kevin Warren, and all of a sudden George McCaskey is pushing out all this, Ben do this, Ben do that, Ben do this, draft this, then it's going to get real shitty again. I'll tell you that for sure.
And I'll have to say this: whoever just said, Dante, you said that the McCaskeys are broke. Their family worth is $1.3 billion. They're not broke. They're not broke at all.
The team is worth $9 billion, so in essence, they're actually worth well over $10 billion.
Yeah, and this is from Forbes magazine. Like, I just Googled it. They are worth $1.3 billion. So I mean, if that's broke, and I don't know what rich is. So
yeah, and James, that's what we've seen this so many times where James says Ben Johnson changed the culture, but James, you heard Ben Johnson talk about before he got hired by the Bears that there has to be some stability in the front office. Like, the stability he was talking about is obviously good. You're talking about Kevin Warren and Brian Poles. Like he said, I want it from the top to the bottom. I want stability. I don't want a bunch of changes. I don't want a bunch of who's running what, who's doing what. I want there to be a set order of the way things are operated. And whether you believe it or not, man, he chose the Bears, so he must not have been all that upset with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. Like, he could have gone anywhere he wanted to go. He could have been working for Tom Brady right now as we speak, but he decided to come work for the McCaskeys, Kevin Warren, and Ryan Poles. I don't know how much they were involved in getting Ben Johnson here, but you have to think, after what he said when he was choosing what team he wanted to go to, there's got to be a little bit of credit given to the guy at the front office, because Ben Johnson said, I'm going to choose the team with the most stability from top to bottom right now. And he chose the Chicago Bears. That's the team he decided to go to. Like I said, he could be working for Tom Brady, which would probably be a pretty good situation to be in.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, Ben Johnson literally chose and turned down chose the Bears and turned down other teams. So
5 other
Yeah,
teams to come to Chicago.
there has to be something there that is good about him. And I'm not a big Kevin Warren supporter here, but I'm also not a Kevin Warren hater.
I'm not saying I'm going to call the guy.
I'm kind of with you, Jay. I'm kind of with you there.
But I'm not. I don't hate the guy either. I mean, look, he's obviously capable of other things. Look what he did with the Big Ten, right? He made it literally the best conference in all of college sports. Look what he did with the stadium in Minnesota. The problem is he walked into a scenario where a team had already purchased land, so he may not even have thought himself that was a good parcel of land to build a stadium on. Also, the Bears as an organization, before he got there, didn't do any studies on it. I don't even think they really thought about it. I drive by there a lot. They're
just started doing their
a lot of
evaluation
room to make the roads bigger or better. So, honestly, I think it's still a good spot for them, but I don't think they did their due diligence. That's a screw up by Ted Phillips. He bought that land. And I think if Kevin Warren was here, they may have chosen something different.
So the Bears fans are so quick to blame one person. Like, you guys, whenever, if a draft pick plays well, people are like, Ben Johnson's the shit. He chose that guy. If a draft pick is bad, people are like, well, Ryan Poles probably drafted that guy. Guys, it's collective. It's collective effort. Like,
right.
They're all in the room together. They all make these decisions together. So if there's something you don't like about the team, they all have to take partial blame. If there's something you like about the team, they all get partial credit. That's the way it works. It's not like, oh, if it was a good draft pick, it was probably Ben Johnson. If it was a bad draft pick, it was probably Ryan Poles or Dennis Allen. Like, that's not how it works. Ben Johnson signs off on everything. He's the head coach. He gets the final say on every single decision that's made about the roster, anything that involves the roster. But Ben Johnson has the final say on everything. Everything.
James, real quick, he didn't come here solely because of Caleb Williams. If he wanted to do that, he could have come here the year before. Because I think the Bears were on their way out with Mr. Eber Schmuck or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I think if Ben Johnson, the year prior, had come out and said, I am currently looking for a head coaching job, I am not going to wait another year. I'm not staying in Detroit. I think Matt Eberflus would have been fired the second that sentence came out of his mouth. Matt Eberflus would have been fired, and the Bears would have been like, Ben, we got a spot for you right here. The reason the Bears retained Matt Eberflus is because Ben Johnson was like, I'm going to stay at Detroit for one more year. I don't feel like I'm ready to be an NFL head coach yet, which actually turned out to be the best movie he's ever made. Like I said, Sean, Jason, I don't know enough about, I don't think anybody in this chat or on this panel knows enough about Kevin Warren to tell you exactly how successful or how good of a guy he is or how bad of a guy he is or how much procrastinator he is, how much he sucks his job, how good he is his job. There's just too much shit that he does behind the scenes that we will never, ever know about. And even when it comes to the stuff that makes the news, that's political, it's all legal mumbo jumbo. And Kevin Warren understands that when he's talking to lawyers and judges and politicians. We don't. We have no idea what the hell they're talking about. No idea.
And I'll say this: when that Illinois State senator was on the score on Monday, and he said that neither the McCaskies, neither the Warren, the Bears had zero presence in Springfield. That's kind of a problem. I think there's a lot of problems here.
It's on George.
They have a presence there. They have literally
right?
lobbyists. They have a lobbyist on their staff.
It doesn't matter because the reports are coming out that Kevin Warren isn't listening to him anyways.
Well, yeah, but dude, politicians are when's the last time you heard any politician, any politician in any country, in any era of any span of time say, oh, I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong. We did that wrong. We didn't do it right.
Well, and maybe that's the problem.
Because as soon as they do, they don't get reelected. It's a no-brainer. It's always somebody else's fault. I'm not saying the Bears aren't at fault, but dude, the day I believe a politician is the day literally I don't have to pay taxes anymore. Until then, I'm not buying any politicians. You know me in politics. If you believe in politics or party or any of that crap, man, you've been eating a poison apple.
And I don't agree that Poles is a fraud either. I know James says that on the regular on almost every show, but
yeah,
I think Ryan Poles has grown into his job. And I wasn't the biggest Ryan Poles fan when he first got here. But when you look at the totality of what he's done, he's kind of turned it around. Last year's draft was pretty solid. We'll see what this draft class has to do. When you're a rookie GM learning on the job, you're going to make mistakes. And I, as a fan and I, as a person, didn't take that really into account. And I pointed fingers at him. And maybe I should have pointed fingers at the Bears because the Bears didn't hire someone with experience to be the general manager. They hired someone who had to learn on the job. And I think Ryan Poles is showing that he's kind of cerebral. I think he's very sharp. And I think he's getting better at his job yearly, and I'm still not there to say, you know, he's Howie Roseman, but I'm getting closer to say I can deal with the shit he's shoveling right now. And you know what it is he's building through the draft like he said he was. We got a number of components. Now last year's draft kind of falls apart because Zot Frazier gets cut, Trapillo gets broken, Turner gets broken, you know, but you still have Burden. Manungai was a solid addition to a piece, you know. So I think that, yes, when he first got here, rookie was trying to figure out his way. And I think he's figuring it out. And I think he's getting better. That's all I could say.
I just think I don't think it's a good take by Bears fans to be like, well, Ryan Poles had nothing to do with the fact that Caleb Williams is now the Chicago Bears quarterback. It fell in his lap. Ryan Poles had nothing to do with the fact that Ben Johnson is now the Bears head coach. That fell in his lap. Ryan Poles had nothing to, like, listen, I am all for criticizing Ryan Poles when he makes mistakes. And anybody wants to put in that chat, oh man, that Nate Davis move, that Chase Claypool, I'm all for it. Like those terrible moves, and he needs to be held accountable.
A young GM,
you can't just be like, all the bad stuff that happens was because Ryan Poles sucks. All the good stuff that happens is because he's got a lot of good luck on his side. That's just not a good argument. It's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you have to be like, listen, I don't like these things that Ryan Poles has done. I do like these things that Ryan Poles has done. And right now, could we be further than we are? Yes, probably. But am I excited the Bears were a playoff team last year and made it to the second round of the playoffs and lost to a good Rams team in overtime? Yeah, that's probably the best case scenario for the Chicago Bears up to this point, outside of maybe having one of the top 3 GMs in the NFL, like a Howie Roseman, and you hit on every single draft pick you have. You guys, that is not the norm. That's the exception to the rule. When people talk about the Rams and the Seahawks and the Eagles rosters, why do you think every team, why do you think Josh Allen has won a Super Bowl? Why do you think Joe Burrow hasn't won a Super Bowl? Why do you think Lamar Jackson has won a Super Bowl? No GM in the NFL is perfect. There's plenty of good quarterbacks in the NFL who have the talent to win Super Bowls, but they haven't done it yet because every GM in the NFL makes mistakes. And that unfortunately for teams like the Bears, that makes it a little bit tougher to get to the championship. It's going to take you an extra year now because you missed on those draft picks in 2024. Now it's going to take you another year. But I do agree with Sean. I mean, you hired a 35-year-old, whatever he was, GM who's never been a GM before. And you're like, I hope he's the best GM in the world. Like, that's very rare. But I do expect, just like everybody else in the world who starts their career, their job, to get better with practice and time on task and so on and so forth. And that's another thing we could talk about is, I believe personally, and people can say they disagree, but I believe that when Bill Pulling was brought in here and was paid $6 million to find a coach, and he narrowed it down to Matt Eberflus, and I forgot who else they were deciding between. I think the choice was out of Ryan Poles' hand. I think he got here and they were like, you need to hire one of these two guys. And he thought Matt Eberflus was the better of the two. And it's like, you know, Jason, if you were running a mechanic shop and your mechanics didn't know the difference between a screwdriver and a wrench, probably not going to be a very good shop, right? Sean, if you're running a roofing company, they don't know what a shingle is. You're like, hey, grab the shingles. We're like, I don't know what those are. Probably not going to build a lot of roofs. If you're Ryan Poles, you get the Chicago Bears, and Matt Eberflus is your coach, and Matt Eberflus hires Shane Waldron, probably not going to find a ton of success, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Well,
now he's got his Ben Johnson, he's got his Dennis Allen, and it looks like they're making much better decisions as an organization.
Well, what needs to happen is if he starts stacking up, and I think this year is going to be a pretty decent draft, but if he can stack up more drafts like last year, we still got to see what happens. Really, you know, it takes a few years. But what were his only 2 misses? Really, were Zot Frazier and Ruben Hippolyte. Everybody else in that draft last year was great.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, you know, when people talk about Ryan Poles after that draft, before a single player took the field, people are like, Al Harris was banging the table for Zay Frazier. Al Harris was banging did you guys see the war room? Or Dennis Allen's like, well, we got Ruben Hippolyte. We definitely just added more speed to this roster. And then when it doesn't work out well and they don't look good, it's like Ryan Poles. Well, I thought that was no, it wasn't Al Harris's guy. That wasn't Al Harris's guy. That was Ryan Poles. Like, no, I'm pretty sure we talked extensively about how Al Harris was banging the table for Zay Frazier, and all of a sudden that he sucks or whatever's going on with him and he can't play football. And all of a sudden it's Ryan Poles' fault. Like, do you want him to listen to Al Harris? Do you want him to listen to Antoine Randall? Do you want him to listen to Ben Johnson? Do you want him to listen to Dennis Allen? Or do you not want him to listen to those guys? Like, it's got to be a collective decision, right? So whenever those decisions don't work out, they all need to get blamed. And whenever something like Colston Loveland does work out, where you're like, man, you took Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren and he ends up being one of the best tight ends in the NFL, they all need to get some credit. You can't just be like, all the good things are happening because of Ben and all the bad things happen because of Ryan. Like, that's not how it works. That is not how it works. And I'm pretty sure anybody who works in that Bears organization would tell you the exact same thing. It's a collective effort. It's a collective effort. It's all of their faults, and they all get credit when things go out. It's all their faults.
And you want to know, like, when everyone talks about the Rams and what Kroenke did out there to get that stadium, you're asking the McCaskies to do something, and I'm not making this up. You guys can Google it. It is a rarity in sports. It doesn't happen. He built the stadium without tax money, privately funded. Took, I think it was $500 million out of his pocket to do it. It's not something that, it's a rarity in sports, and it's not going to happen. And you guys have been Bears fans long enough. You know the McCaskey family. They're cheap as shit. They're certainly not going to do it. So there's ways to do it, and that's why Kevin Warren was brought here. Whether Kevin is football operations or not, one of his main jobs, and they've said this repeatedly, one of his main jobs is to get the stadium steel done. How many times cranes in the air, shovels in the ground? None of this is happening, and a lot of it is to blame. Goes back to him.
To both of them. I mean, you can't. George McCaskey is he's the one who's spending the money, so he's just as involved. Like, he's got everything Kevin Warren does has to be approved by George McCaskey. Every single little thing he does.
Well, I think George McCaskey.
It's not Kevin Warren's money; it's George McCaskey's
Yeah,
money.
but I think McCaskey has the list already of do's and don'ts going into this deal, and said, "This is what you're allowed to do. This is what you're not to do. If anything changes, bring it back to me, and we'll talk about it."
Well, yeah, I mean, and how much things have like for instance, like first they were talking about charging the Bears $125 million in property taxes, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And then Kevin Warren has to go up to George McCaskey and be like, "Hey, listen, 125, that's ridiculous. But how much are we willing to spend, man? Are we going to be the highest? Is it okay to be the highest tax team in the NFL?" He has to get that approval from George. Like, yeah, the Rams pay 8.9 and they're the highest right now, but I guess we're willing to pay 10 to 12. I guess we'll be the highest tax team in the NFL. And, McCaskey's probably pushing, or Warren's probably pushing McCaskey to approve that stuff. Like, the McCaskies aren't known for spending a ton of money. Warren's probably in the office like, "Hey, listen, guys, I understand $12 million of property taxes is a lot, and it's by far the most in the NFL, but this is the state we live in, and this is the position we're in. So you guys, you're probably going to have to shovel out that money." And it's, I think, the same conversation that happened when they were talking about hiring Ben Johnson. Like, listen, you guys, I know you don't want to spend $45 million, whatever it was, on a coach. I know you don't. I know you'd rather get a cheaper option. But if you want to win games and you want to win championships, you want to get the best of the best, you got to dig a little bit deeper into those pockets. I guarantee you those conversations happen. You guys, we've been watching George McCaskey a very long time, the McCaskey family for a very long time. How often have you heard about them spending more money on a position or a coach or anything else than any other team in NFL? It has never happened in my lifetime until Kevin Warren walked in the building. Then all of a sudden they started spending all this money and things started to change. I think I agree with Sean. Like, Kevin Warren, the fact that he was like Arlington Heights, Chicago, Indiana, Chicago, Arlington, I don't think that helped the Bears in any way, shape, or form. And that has to fall on the shoulders of Kevin Warren, because I think he had everything to do with most of that. At the same time, it's just like Ryan Poles. As much bad as there's been, I think as a Bears fan who's just focused on the game of football, you're not like, I don't really give a shit where they play. I don't care if they played on the moon. I'd still watch the fucking games. Then when it comes to the football side of things, I think Kevin Warren probably deserves more credit than Bears fans are giving it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for me, like, the stadium deal is just starting to be like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious.
Yeah,
it's like,
for me, I want to focus on the players and what's happening with this team. And
I hope that's where Sean, I hope that's the mentality of everybody in the building. Like, hey, the stadium's on the back burner. Let's focus on winning Super Bowls. We got to win Super Bowls. Because we win Super Bowls, we make more money. It'll be easier to build a stadium. Yeah. And when it comes to the stadium thing, guys, I feel like we're running on a treadmill. Like, it's the same conversation every day. Like, you know what? Until you guys put shovels in that ground, I don't give a shit anymore. You go wherever you're going to go. Shut the fuck up.
I think a lot of Chicagoans are there right now, Kyle. Like, dude, I don't. Yeah, let me know when the stadium is being built, and then I'll care what's going on.
When you listen, and I've spent the last couple of days, and on the way home from work just now, I listened. They had the mayor from Hammond, Indiana, on here, and he's the Tribune wrote a hit piece on Hammond. They passed all these. It's not toxic. It's like, dude, I don't care anymore. I want the Bears to figure it out, but in the meantime, just keep it over there. And I want to know what's going on with Luther Burden and DeAndre Swift and Caleb Williams. And, that's what I care about. I'm going to be a Bears fan if they played on the fucking moon. So
Yeah.
whatever. I might not
Honestly,
go to
you guys,
the games, but
I have people coming to me who know that I love the Bears and I invest a lot of time and effort into reading about this team, studying this team, learning this team. And I've had people come into the bar who are casual Bears fans who are like, hey, say, Kyle, where do you think the Bears are at with this new stadium thing? I'm like, where do I think they're at? I think they're lost, but they're making good time. That's where I think they're at. I think they're lost, but they're making good time. Like, I don't think they have any idea where they're at, to be honest with you. I think they're right now. And you know what? The more that Kevin Warren does these negotiating tactics and people start to see his bluffs, they start to call his bluffs, like, you guys are never, George McCaskey will not let you leave the state of Illinois. You're not leaving Illinois. You're not going to Indiana. The more that the Illinois has leverage, the more leverage Illinois has. That's the price you pay when you bluff and they call you out. That's the price you pay.
I got to ask you a question, James, and we're not Chiefs fans, but I'm going to ask you this general. Do you think all the Chiefs fans are not Chiefs fans anymore because they're moving across the state line to Kansas?
Hey, where does Dallas play? Where does Miami play? Where does New York play? New York doesn't even play in the state.
I was going to say the same thing happened to if you look into the story, that's what happened to the Giants and the Jets. And they were like, fine, we'll go play in New Jersey. And that's exactly what they did. And they've been happy in East Rutherford ever since. So
Miami is nowhere near Miami. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I've been there.
All the drama and the political bullshit in San Francisco, and the Niners were like, you know what? We're going to Santa Clara. Fuck this. I'm done with this shit. We're going to play somewhere else. You guys, you could deal with your own shit. Whatever. Don't care. Like, I don't blame them. After a while, you got to be like, you know what? If you aren't willing, we make the state a lot of money. We make the state a lot. We bring a lot of people in here. The city gets the parking. The city gets the concessions. The city gets everything. We have to pay them a rent on a lease for a stadium, and you guys aren't willing to meet us halfway. Like, I think it's both Kevin Warren, George McCaskey's fault, and the state of Illinois and their politicians, because they're all lying sack of shit. That's what they are.
And then look, I'll tell you what. Ask people that are in San Diego, right? Because they didn't get that, right. Ask people in St. Louis. Right, because they not St. Louis Rams anymore. LA to St. Louis, back to LA. I believe when Cleveland left and became the Baltimore Ravens, I think that was one of the issues too, because Cleveland literally had no money at all to build a stadium. This is just how sports stadiums and governments work now. But that's also why a lot of states now have stadium, like not corporations, but stadium groups. Right, they have funding. They have other things that actually, like a stadium authority, that actually take over all of this. And Illinois just doesn't have it. We do not have a stadium authority. It's insane. I think that Northwestern Stadium was in the works for like 20 years or something like that before it finally got approved. Like, it was a long time, dude. And that's in Evanston. It's not really in the city of Chicago, but just about as close as you can get. It's really, really tough. Universities a lot of times will put up all that money because they have tons of it from the NCAA. But they get by because it's a college. It's also a public good. They can take some of that, state funding for schools. So they have a little bit more money to deal with. I don't know. It is what it is. They're going to build a stadium eventually. They will. Yeah. Where it is, who knows? Honestly, we live in Hoffman and Schaumburg. You remember where the old Poplar Creek was? That's where I thought they should have built. There's way better egress and ingress. You're right next to the expressway. It's still in Cook County. It's super easy to get to. I mean, I don't know why they didn't buy that land. Probably too expensive. But I think they got sucked into that deal. Because remember, they had a deal with Churchill Downs, who owned Arlington. And there was a betting. That's how I think they got their betting license, was through Churchill Downs. And I think part of that agreement was they had to buy that land, because how many times had Arlington been closed and reopened and closed and reopened? And I think that was part of the deal. Because if you remember, George McCaskey said, well, we had to buy it. He didn't really disclose why, but I'm guessing that might have something to do with it. There may have been an agreed purchase price on, hey, get this gambling license. We'll help you out. You're going to make tons of money. Let's buy this property when it's done.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, guys, I think we should turn the page, because this conversation can go on forever. And I honestly do believe this in my heart of hearts. I believe the Chicago Bears will win a Super Bowl before they're playing in a new stadium. I honestly 100% believe that.
There is a stadium authority in Chicago. I don't know.
Yeah, there is.
It's
there is.
They reallocated money for other programs. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's called the Illinois Sports Facilities Authority, the ISFA. So
insufficient funds association.
Jason, outside of the stadium, there's been some rather surprising news in the NFC that you didn't get a chance to talk about on Monday since you weren't here. But how do you feel about how the winds of change are happening in the NFC right now? And Myles Garrett gets traded from the Cleveland Browns to the conference rival Los Angeles Rams, who knocked the Bears out of the playoffs last year.
Well, I'll tell you what, we played Myles Garrett last year, right? I think he had a sack on us. I don't think he had 2, but Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett. I don't think anybody can argue how good of a player he is. He's the all-time sack leader for a single season. He's averages like an 89 PFF score. I mean, the guy, there's no debating how good Myles Garrett is. And I'm sure might be some people in the chat that are going to say that I think Myles Garrett sucks. That's not the case. Myles Garrett is awesome. Every team would love to have Myles Garrett or a Myles Garrett on their team. I'm worried, and Sean, we were talking about this yesterday. I think it's a much better trade for Cleveland than it is for LA. Honestly, Cleveland, by the time they get their rebuild done around, Myles Garrett's going to be like 33, 34. It's too late now. You know what I mean? You've been paying him this whole time for nothing, and it's going to.
Well, he would have been a free agent anyway. That would have been the end of his contract.
So I think it was a really good trade for Cleveland. I don't know why. I just don't know why the Rams had to make that trade. I think you had a very young Jared Verse. And by the way, if you look at Jared Verse's numbers, he's not Myles Garrett by any means, but he's also an ascending young player. I had a stat here. Let's see. Jared Verse has earned an 89.7 overall PFF grade since entering the league 2 years ago. Among edge defenders younger than 28, only Aiden Hutchinson, Micah Parsons, and Will Anderson Jr. have posted higher grades over that span. None of those players were realistic options for the Browns, so in that regard, they made the right move. Look, he's in rare company, and if you look at their stats, he had more snaps than Myles Garrett. That might be more because of Myles Garrett's age, which I understand. Myles Garrett really doesn't miss very many games. He had more pass rush snaps. Not as good of a pass rush grade as you would imagine. 94 Myles Garrett, 88.1 to Jared Verse. The run defense grade was 84.7 to 73.9. But total pressures, he had more total pressures. He had a pretty solid pass rush win rate. Pretty good pressure rate too at 17%, just slightly under Myles Garrett's of 17.8%. The run stop rate though was almost double of what Myles Garrett's is at 8.31%. He also had more snaps at edge as well. So now the WAR score, obviously Myles Garrett with 23 sacks, his WAR score is going to be almost like a 1. I'm a little concerned that they're really maybe rushing this decision. And I know why they did it, right? Because we want to win now. We want to win a Super Bowl now. But I think they may have just screwed themselves in the next 5 years from now, 3 years from now. I don't know if they're going to be as good as they are now. Now, maybe the GM can rebuild it and turn it around really quick, but you're going to be losing Matthew Stafford. We'll see how long their head coach wants to stay there, because if he's gone, you definitely ain't going to be winning very many games. So I don't know. I think they had some really good players on the team, and I probably think they were Super Bowl favorites already without Myles Garrett. So I don't know if it was necessary in that aspect. I also did a little research on the top 10 edges. You got Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Danielle Hunter, Josh Hines Allen, and Trey Hendrickson in that order. Most of them, with the exception of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, everybody else was like middle of the road for points allowed. So not really necessarily killing it. The Texans had like the second fewest points allowed because they're just amazing. 3 of the teams did not make the playoffs. And actually, if you count for the top 10, 2 of them are Houston Texans. So it's almost like a 40% rate that you're not going to make. So 60 to 40, let's just say that you'll make the playoffs. But I also look at those teams: the Green Bay Packers, the Steelers, the Lions. The Raiders did not make it. San Francisco 49ers didn't make it. Jacksonville Jaguars. They have good coaches and good quarterbacks, and I think that's what got them to it. And Kyle, you and I were talking about this. Maybe the edge rusher is important, but maybe not as important as we really wanted it to, or we think it is. The best defense, the Seahawks, had the highest, their highest sack getter was Leonard Williams, who only had 7 sacks. Did not have a top. They did not have a top 35 D lineman by pressure rate. The Bears actually had 3 top 35 defensive linemen by pressure rate. So I don't know that you necessarily need to have that super elite edge rusher to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, it's not going to hurt you. But my worry for the Rams and the Rams fans is, what is your team going to look like 3 years from now? I don't know, man. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this with you yesterday, Jay. Listen, I'm not the Rams. The reason that this is a good move for the Rams as opposed to other teams is because the Rams are already a good team, right? Like we've talked about how Myles Garrett was on the Browns. They were terrible. Max Crosby was on the Raiders. They were terrible. Like those teams, even with Myles Garrett, even with Max Crosby, they didn't stand a chance of winning a Super Bowl. The Rams do, but that's not because of Myles Garrett. That's because the Rams already had a good team. Somebody in the chat said this makes the Rams a contender. You guys, the Rams were in the NFC Championship game last year. They were contenders. They were in the conversation for winning a Super Bowl. This certainly helps them, no doubt about it, but I believe probably only for this year. And I'm not saying that Myles Garrett is not going to be good next year too, but there's probably 3 or 4 guys they probably cannot extend now, guys who they drafted and developed who are very damn good football players. And I'll say this, if you look at the team who led the league in sacks last year, the last 2 years, that'd be the Denver Broncos, because they have a plethora of guys who can get you 7, 8, 9, 10 sacks. If they do end up losing one of those guys, like the Packers did Micah Parsons, it's not like their season is crippled now. They're not like, oh man, we just lost our entire pass rush because Myles Garrett's gone, or Aiden Hutchinson's gone, or Max Crosby's gone, or Micah Parsons is gone. Now we went from here in terms of pass rush to here. I like the way the teams like the Broncos do it, because not only do you have a plethora of options if one of the guys ends up getting hurt, the other guys could pick them up. On top of that, you don't have $161 million invested into one single player. Now, listen, what I'm saying is not an argument to say that Myles Garrett doesn't bring the Rams closer to the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying by any means necessary. Yeah. What I'm saying is it can work both ways. Sean, do you disagree with that?
No.
Like, do you guys think?
I thought you were not done.
If they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl,
if they never make that trade, and they're the same team as they were last year, but with the additions they made, and Jared Verse is standing there instead of Myles Garrett, do the Rams still not have a damn good shot? I think you picked them to win the Super Bowl before Myles Garrett got there. Am I mistaken? Yeah. So it's not like they weren't contenders. It's not like it was like, oh man, if they don't get Myles Garrett, them Rams are in trouble. They're going to be in trouble.
We did that way too early.
Football team because they know how to build football teams.
Yeah, we did that way too early thing a couple of weeks ago. When you go up and down the Rams roster, I think it's was the best roster in the league. And again, Jared Verse, I'm a huge fan of Jared Verse. I'm kind of, Dustin's talked about this in the past. I'm kind of with him. I wish the Bears would have went there instead of Rome Odunze. And again, don't beat me up. It's not like I hate Rome Odunze, but Jared Verse would be such a great piece on this Bears defense, something that the Bears are missing. You have Luther Burden here now. Now maybe you don't trade DJ Moore. Point being, you had wide receivers in the building. You don't have a Jared Verse in the building. So if you take Verse over Rome, I think the Bears defense is in a better spot. But nonetheless, I think, for the Bears fans that are like, the Bears should have made this trade, the Bears didn't make this trade. The Bears didn't make this trade because they believe they don't have a Myles Garrett, but they believe they have a bona fide pass rusher on this team, a 23-year-old stud who moved up 10 pounds, put on 6 pounds of muscle last year, went down the stretch, had 3.5 sacks in his final 4 games with 6 quarterback hits. And I fully believe that the Bears believe that they can turn Austin Booker into that 8 to 10, maybe 12 sack guy. You think about if he didn't miss the first 6 games of the season last year, he might have been a double-digit sack guy last year or damn near close to it. And if he starts doing that, the secondary has to cover less. Dennis Allen could be more aggressive. You also have a little bit more. You probably get more out of Montez Sweat on the other side. I personally think, and I'm not being biased because he's a Jayhawk, but I personally think that the 2 keys to this defense is unlocking Austin Booker and him turning into that sack guy and keeping Kyler Gordon on the field. For everything I've said bad and the Bears defense is missing, if those 2 things can come to fruition, I think we're talking about a different Bears defense, a very good Bears defense, personally.
Maybe like a top 15, not a top 10 by any means.
Right. Right. And I will tell you, I really liked, I don't know if you guys watched the player interviews. They interviewed Luther Burden, DeAndre Swift, and Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett, I love Grady Jarrett.
When you listen to him talk, how do you not love that guy?
He's hilarious.
I feel like he dude.
I love the fact that he came out and said, look, man, I had a bad season. I didn't listen to my body last year. I owe the Chicago Bears a good season this year. Whether he can pull it off, I don't know. Hopefully he can. He's an older gentleman. Hopefully he can. But he's played with Katavius Street. He played 3 years with him in Atlanta. He talked about he loves the energy that Gallimore brings to the front. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It doesn't have to be one guy like Gallimore, Dexter, or Grady Jarrett getting 7 sacks, 6 sacks up the middle. If they can do it as a collective group in a rotation, the Bears defense is better. If they can penetrate, they can get into the backfield, means they're stopping the run. And I think a couple of these guys like Lynch and Gallimore are going to really help against the run. High energy guys who have a great history against the run. I still think, though, that Kyler Gordon being on the field and unlocking Austin Booker not getting hurt, missing 6 games, that is so huge for the Bears. And I think it can be a completely different defense, especially when you look how solid Austin Booker really, it started like the game slowed down to him down the stretch. His last 4 games, he almost had a sack a game, 6 quarterbacks hits. He's getting in the backfield. He's making the quarterback uncomfortable. I personally believe, and I think you guys might agree with me, I think this could be a very big breakout season for Austin Booker and change the face of this defense. And then I don't think people are going to be like, well, we should trade for this guy. We should trade for this guy, when we trust Ryan Poles, the fraud, and Ben Johnson, the head coach, and Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator, that are in the meeting rooms, that are watching these players develop and say, hey, Ryan, don't go make this trade. This guy's on this roster right now. So let's just get it out on the grass. Let's get out on the practice field. Let's get to game time and watch it all unfold. I don't know where you guys stand with that. Where do you guys think about that?
Well, first and foremost, let's get to, I agree with you, Sean, but let's real quick. The chat has just been going off on this. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of Bears fans have kind of slowed the roll a little bit when it comes to this Myles Garrett trade. I think a lot of fans were up in arms on Monday when the news came out or whatever. So I think they were like, man, why couldn't the Bears do this? But I think a very good point that's been made in this chat is I think Jared Verse is the piece that pushed that trade over the top. And the Bears didn't have anything like that. Austin Booker is not Jared Verse. As much as I like Austin Booker, and Sean, maybe he could be, but we got to go. I think the Browns were basing it off of what they've seen so far. And I think they see a lot more potential in Jared Verse. Now, that's not to say Austin Booker can't do that, but I do agree with somebody you put it in the chat there, and I don't know who it was, but this trade to me only made sense for 4 or 5 teams in the NFL. There's only 4 or 5 teams to me in the NFL that this trade made sense for. Teams that are this close to a Super Bowl. You're talking about the Eagles. You're talking about maybe the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams. Those teams that we all expect to be close to that championship game by the end of the season. Like what the Eagles did with Saquon Barkley a couple of years ago. We're like, hey, we're missing that one piece. Let's go get it. We're missing that difference maker on offense. We got our AJ Brown, we got our Devonta Smith, we got our Dallas Goedert, we got our quarterback. We just need that one guy who can change the tune of this offense. And they went and got Saquon Barkley, won a Super Bowl. Maybe the same thing happens with the Rams and Myles Garrett. But I will tell you this, guys. I believe personally that even after this year, even after this draft and the last free agency class, like all the guys Sean just talked about, I think the Bears are still in the mode in which they need a lot of good players rather than one great player. And I think giving away draft capital for them personally, when they look themselves in the mirror, that's just not a position I believe that they are in. I don't think that they believe that going to get a mile. Yeah. When the Rams acquired Myles Garrett, they immediately jumped to the Super Bowl favorites by MGM, by FanDuel, by DraftKings. If the Bears had got Myles Garrett, I think right now the Bears are the 15th highest odds to win the Super Bowl. That would not have moved them to number 1. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because the Bears still would have had holes in their roster, even with Myles Garrett here. And you're talking about, obviously, they threw a player like Jared Verse. The Bears probably would have traded it through on a player too. And I'm assuming it probably would have been somebody like Montez Sweat or Austin Booker, or maybe Austin Booker and somebody else. So you're talking about creating another hole. Listen, I'm not saying that. Listen, I think the Rams, it was good for the Rams because of the position the Rams were in. The positions are like you guys talked about. The Rams, Matthew Stafford probably has just a couple of years left. The Rams are in a position where they need to win now because the window is shrinking. The Bears have a very young roster, at least the core, all the talented players on this team. Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Kyle Monangai, Caleb Williams. Now you talk about Logan Jones. Jonah Jackson, most of these guys, Darnell Wright, most of these guys are still pretty young. Even if you look at the defensive side of the ball, Sean just talked about Austin Booker, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, Malik Muhammad. Most of these guys are still relatively young. So the core that's going to be here for the foreseeable future is young. They still need to add a ton of talent because you got to imagine that guys like Montez Sweat aren't going to be here forever. Guys like Joe Tooney aren't going to be here forever. These are guys that are going to have to be replaced. The Bears, and they already have holes to begin with. They don't even have a backup safety right now. The Bears have too many holes to be giving away draft capital. This is the same thing we talked about with Max Crosby. It's the same thing we talked about when Myles Garrett trade came up in the first place. Same thing we've talked about with all these guys. Now, if you're talking about a guy like Josh Sweat, where they're like, hey, we're looking for a 4th round pick, I'm all in. I'm all in. But if you're asking for one of your best players and 3-year draft picks, top 3 draft pick, I just don't think the Bears can afford that right now.
Yeah, and for me, and James, he did draft them, and I don't care if he drafted them after a kicker. He did. I believe it was the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, that he traded. He traded up to get Booker. I think it was the Bills. I'm not 100% on that, but I don't care. Do you think that anyone cares that someone else took Tyreek Hill in the 5th round, or Austin Eckler was an undrafted free agent, or Terrell Davis, a Super Bowl MVP, was drafted in the 6th round, or Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round? If Austin Booker has 12 sacks this year, I don't give a shit what round or who was drafted before him. Ryan Poles nailed that pick. He drafted him in the 5th round. That was a steal. He might have traded up and traded away. I think it was a 3rd or 4th rounder, I think 4th rounder maybe, that he traded away for him. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry. It's been a very exhausting day. But regardless of the fact, I don't care when he traded for him or what he did or who was drafted before him. He still drafted him. He nailed the pick. And Austin Booker looks, to me, in my opinion, to be an ascending defensive end who could possibly blossom into a star in the NFL. That's just the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and James asked the question, why are the Rams a better team than the Bears? First of all, I didn't say they were a better team than the Bears. I said they're more prepared to win. And the reason being is because everybody in the Rams has proven themselves. We don't know what Luther Burden is. We don't know what Rome Odunze is. We don't even know what Caleb Williams is, what his ceiling is. We know what Matthew Stafford is. We know what Puka Nacua is. We know what Devontae Adams is. We know what half that defense
fully
is.
operational Death Star.
They went and got one of the best secondary players in the entire world from the Kansas City Chiefs. The Rams have built this roster to win. They were in the NFC Championship game last year. Not a person in the world picked the Bears to be in the NFC Championship game. It wasn't a surprise that the Rams made it. It's not like if the Bears had made it, the whole NFL world would have been like, holy shit, the Bears turned that shit around fast. The Rams, everybody last year when they made the NFC Championship, people were like, yeah, that makes sense. Matthew Stafford, future Hall of Famer. Puka Nacua, maybe the best receiver in the NFL, top 5 for sure. Kyron Williams, good backfield. They had Devontae Adams, who led the league in touchdown catches. Like, yeah, it makes sense. They feel like they're one. The Bears have so many question marks on this roster. We don't know what Kyle Monangai is. We don't know what Luther Burden is. Even Colston Loveland, like, he's amazing. I think he's going to be damn good. We don't know his ceiling yet. Is he Travis Kelce or is he Dallas Goedert? We don't know. We have no idea.
And I'll say this, when it comes to the Rams, they've had 3 first-round picks in the last 10 years. One of them was traded away. The second one was traded away. And they had Ty Simpson this year. And I'll say, if there's one, in my opinion, I think if there's one thing that the Rams screwed up on was taking Ty Simpson.
Yeah, but Sean,
that pick.
They might have done that in preparation of this trade.
In my opinion, they should have drafted Devontae Adams' replacement.
Sean, did you see somebody in the chat put that the reason he believes that they drafted Ty Simpson in the 1st round is because this trade had already been agreed to, and they're not going to have a 1st round pick next year to draft a quarterback in the 1st round. That's what I don't know who put that in the chat, but if this trade was agreed to before the draft, it makes a lot more sense why they took Ty Simpson, because they're like, hey guys, we're not going to have 1st round picks. If we want a 1st round quarterback, we got to get him this year, because that 1st round pick next year is going to Myles Garrett. It's going to the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that certainly would make sense. And Scott, I don't know why you stop with the nonsense. You're picking one room out of the entire team for. Yeah, is the Bears offensive line better than the Rams? Probably, but I mean, you're acting like that's like some handicap that's going to hamper them. They made it to the NFC Championship game last year, guys. They made it to the NFC They beat the Bears. The Rams beat the Bears. They were the better team than the Chicago Bears. They came into our house and beat us. And like Sean said on Monday, I'm pretty sure if we had played in Los Angeles, they probably would have bent us over in the ass. And they beat us to go to the NFC Championship game, and they lost to the Seahawks. They lost to the best team in football. The Bears weren't there. They lost to the Rams. You guys, the Bears had the chance to prove that they were better than the Rams or as good, and they weren't.
And again, to say if DJ Moore runs this route, they win. If Rome Odunze doesn't drop the touchdown, if our quarterback doesn't throw 3 interceptions, if Ben Johnson doesn't go for it on 4th down 4 times. Stop the age-old, oh, if DJ Moore doesn't do this. It was a collective effort of failure.
Yeah, because the Bears weren't there, because they're naive. Yeah. They're young. They're still learning. Yes. The Rams, that's what I'm talking about.
Collective effort.
The Rams have the championship caliber. They have that championship pedigree. Matthew Stafford's been there. He's won Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a future Hall of Famer. Caleb Williams is learning a new offense under a new head coach with a bunch of new pieces around him. The Rams didn't have to deal with any of that shit. Puka Nacua has been there. Devontae Adams is the consummate professional who could probably fit into any scheme or any roster in the NFL right now today. The Rams were ready to win. The Rams were ready to win. Sean called it before the season. Sean said Devontae Adams in LA, he's going to lead the league in receiving touchdowns. Like, that's how crisp, that's how much you knew that the Rams were going to be a threat in the NFL. The Bears, we were all like, everybody in this chat had a chance to put their predictions in the chat in the last offseason.
Mikey.
I didn't see anybody saying the Bears are going to beat the Rams and then the Seahawks to make it to the Super Bowl and play the Patriots. No, people were like, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe 10 wins. Fringe playoff team. Do they win the division? Are they second in the division? Like, you know what I thought about the Rams? Regardless of where they finish in that division, they're going to the playoffs and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. That I knew. I knew. The Bears, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a huge Bears fan. I study them constantly. I could not tell you. I picked the Bears to win 9 games last year. They ended up winning the division. You just don't know. You got a new coach, young quarterback, young talent. You don't know what's going to happen. The Rams, everybody there is basically established. You pretty much knew what you were getting from the Rams.
And look, let's be honest. You have the league MVP as your quarterback. You have arguably the best play caller.
League MVP. Exactly. Good point, Jason. I forgot about that. He also won the MVP.
And you've drafted really well. You've got 2, stud wide receivers. You have a really good tight end. You've got really good running back. They've got talent, and they just win games. And look, they arguably are the toughest division in all of football as well. Let's not discount that too. So they go through fire. So that by the time they're in the playoffs, they're basically playing 6 playoff games every season before they get to the playoffs.
Who's that? You're talking about
the Rams.
Yeah. The Rams and Bears are both in really
and the Bears too. Yeah, we have a tough division, but the NFC West is way tougher. I don't think it's
Super Bowl champions.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, we knew that one of those 3 teams would win the Super Bowl. It was like Niners, Seahawks, Rams, and I had hope for the Bears. I was like, I think at this point in the NFL, it's kind of a lot more parity, and anybody can beat anybody. But at the end, the back of your head, guys, did you think the Bears were going to Seattle and beating them?
No,
probably not.
No,
absolutely.
I was very optimistic that the Bears could beat the Rams in Chicago. I did feel
they almost did, and they almost.
If the Bears had to go to LA, I wouldn't have.
Not a chance on that turf, on that faster. Not a chance in hell, bro. The Rams struggled the way they did against the Chicago Bears. The offense, in particular, is because they weren't used to that frigid weather and that terrible field that people have talked about, Soldier Field, for the last 30 years. That's why the Rams struggled. And if it had been in their house on their terms, they probably would have beat the shit out of the Bears. Sorry, guys. It's just a fact. Listen, it's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day. This is going to take time. And I'm okay with the Bears taking. Don't rush anything, because for once in our lives, we have a franchise quarterback and a good head coach. So don't rush anything. Take your time.
And don't worry, guys, about your edge rusher so much. Seattle won the Super Bowl, and their highest sack leader, their sack leader only had 7 sacks.
And that's what I was saying, Jay, earlier. Like, if you get a collective effort from the defensive line, it's the same as having a guy who has X amount of sacks. If the collective group is good and your weakest link is a strong link, you're fine. I don't know what this defensive line is going to be, but when I look at Gallimore, when I look at Street, when I look at Lynch, when I look at Dexter, when I look at Jarrett, I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters, but I do have some optimism that they got some players that can fill the void till they find that player.
Well, and maybe Austin Booker is that player.
Rotation.
Yeah. And you guys, Jason, you brought it up. The Seattle Seahawks made the Super Bowl and won it with their top pass rusher. What'd you say, Jason? Having 7 sacks?
Yep.
And then the other team that should have been in the Super Bowl, had Bo Nix not broken his ankle, they certainly would have beat the Patriots, because the backup quarterback just Stidham almost did.
Never.
They have that's another team that just gets sacks by committee. They're just a collective unit where they don't need one guy to be the Myles Garrett of the world. That Super Bowl probably should have been the Broncos versus the Seahawks. And those 2 teams are exactly what I was talking about earlier. It's okay if you don't have Myles Garrett. It's okay if you don't have Max Crosby. Just make sure everybody can do their job. If Austin Booker has 8, Montez Sweat has 8. If Vandenberg has 8, like if that's the case, you're in good shape.
if I could, James, really quick, enjoy the ride, because the ride is just as fun as the championship. And I can say this as a Cub fan. In 2014, we had failure, but we were close. In 2015, we got even closer. In 2016, we blew the doors off the league and won our first championship in 100 years. And, it was heartbreaking at the end of 2014. It was heartbreaking at the end of 2015. But you saw it, you felt it, and you're like, man, this team has the makings of being a really, really good baseball team. We might actually have a chance to win a World Series finally in Chicago. And that's kind of when you look at the Bears last year and say, man, they don't have all the parts yet, but the important parts are here. Now it's a matter of them getting comfortable. And as Mikey said a little bit ago in the chat, learning how to win. Sometimes you have to learn how to lose to know how to win.
Sean, this is what I'm talking. I'm not saying you should have a mediocre mentality, James. What I'm saying is, if they made that trade last year for Myles Garrett, there's no Colston Loveland and no Luther Burden here. So where are you as an offense? Because you would have traded those picks to get Myles Garrett here. Like, sometimes patience is a virtue, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, hey, we're too far off to go try to get a Myles Garrett and not draft Colston Loveland and Luther Burden and Ozzie Trapillo, whatever other picks we would have given up to get Myles Garrett. And this year we probably wouldn't have had Thieneman. Like, when you're too far off and you're like, the teams around us are just too far ahead of us, you don't want to trade away a ton of draft capital, because now you'd be talking about, we'd have Myles Garrett here and we'd be like, man, we need a tight end, man, we need a receiver, we lost DJ Moore, we don't have Luther Burden, we didn't have a chance to draft him because we gave that pick away for Myles Garrett. Now we have to go draft another receiver in the first round. Like, you got to be meticulous, right? You have to identify the holes on your roster, look yourself in the mirror and go, okay, realistically, how long is it going to take for us to be able to beat teams like the Seahawks or the Rams or the Chiefs or the Bills? How long is that going to take? And I think the Bears are playing it right. I really do. I think they're taking their time, they're being patient, and they're slowly, methodically trying to build a championship roster, as opposed to throwing all their eggs into one basket. Let's go get Myles Garrett, and now you don't have to have the talent on this team that you accumulated in the draft last year, or maybe even your first round pick this year. Probably would have been included in that trade as well.
And you know what? It's easier to give up a first round pick when it's the 30th pick, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like saying it's pie in the sky, when you talk about developing players, I mean, Max Crosby, who is considered one of the best pass rushers in the league, he had 15 sacks his first couple of years. He developed into a double-digit sack guy. So same with Trey Hendrickson. He developed into if you're faulting me for believing in a 23-year-old who missed the first 6 games of the season, and then as you watched him develop through the year, you're not sitting there like, man, I can't wait for 17 games of Austin Booker and to see what he can bring. He was putting pressure. How many times did he get to Jordan Love? And he should have had a couple other sacks, but it was helmet to helmet. He's got to clean that up. But he was getting in that backfield. He was being disruptive. I mean, everyone wants that instant gratification, and here, so do I. I would like a Super Bowl championship every year, but we're watching Austin Booker develop right in front of our eyes.
We've said this 100 times. We're seeing coaches develop these players.
Right.
They're not just drafting them; they're making them better than they are.
I agree, Prophet. I agree.
Well, and the running theme in the chat right now is, we've been waiting for 30 years. We've been waiting. You guys, you don't blame your current girlfriend for your ex-girlfriend did, right? Like, you can't be like, well, Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson need to rush it because every other GM and coach before them never had back-to-back winning seasons. Well, this isn't coaches and GMs before them. This is a new coach and a new GM, and they're going to do it their way. And they're going to take their time, and they're going to be like, I don't give a shit what happened in Chicago in 2009. 10, 11, 12, 20, 21, 20. We don't give a shit. That was not our business. We're here now. My name is Ben Johnson. This is my team. And I'm going to run it the way I want to run it. If they went in the office and they had a conversation 2 days ago and they were like, hey, Myles Garrett's available. The Browns, we called the Browns. They said they are willing to trade him. And Ben Johnson's like, we're not there yet. I don't want to give up five draft picks and one of our best defensive players to get Myles Garrett because we're not there yet. Then I trust Ben Johnson. I trust the process. Now, like I said, guys, if halfway at week 4, the Cardinals are 1-4 and the Bears can get a Josh Sweat for a 4th round pick, I'm all in. I'm all in on that. But trading away your best defensive player, your young best defensive player on a rookie deal and 3 draft picks, I don't think the Bears felt like they're in that position. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Bears never even picked up the phone and they were like, oh man, we should have called the Browns and made a trade offer for Myles Garrett. Maybe that's what happened. But
I'm sure everybody was on the phone.
Yeah, with the staff. Yeah, exactly. With the staff we have right now, what we've seen out of Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, and Ryan Post through 1 year or 1.5 years, 2 off seasons, I trust them and I think they know what they're doing. So if they decided that it wasn't the right time for this team to go out and get a Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, they were involved in the Max Crosby conversation. We heard it 1,000 times from 1,000 different sources. They were involved in the conversation and they never pulled the trigger. So obviously the Bears don't believe they're there yet. Right? Do you guys agree with that? I mean, if they weren't willing to pull the trigger on a Max Crosby, if they weren't willing to trade picks for Max Crosby and pay him his contract, you think they're willing to add 4 more picks to the trade and add another $20 million and pay Myles Garrett? No, probably not. I think the Bears feel like, and look at Dennis Allen, you guys. Sean, how many times we talked about it? That's not his forte. He doesn't have like a world beater and everybody else is okay. He has a collective unit where everybody does their job and does it well, and he has a lot of versatility and he uses players and
he's had a lot of success with it.
Yes, and he's done pretty well. He's really good at turning defenses around on the snap of a finger. And Sean, I agree with you when you say that I believe that this is going to be I'm not saying the best defense in the NFL, but if you're talking about in comparison to the 2025 Bears defense, not in comparison to the 2025 Texans, the 2025 Bears defense, I think they're going to make leaps and bounds in 2026, not just because of the offseason additions, but just solely based off health itself.
I think all of these numbers that are shit and sad improve this year for the Chicago Bears. I do. Total yards per game versus the run.
The only thing that will go down is turnovers. That's it.
And here, I'm not ready to sit here and say the Bears can't get turnovers. Just be like, that's the thing that you hear, like, oh, Kevin Byard's not here anymore.
They're all turnover guys.
Yeah, well, Kevin Byard and what was the clown?
Nashawn Wright.
Yeah, Nashawn. Because they're not here, we're not getting takeaways anymore. Jesus, that's stupid.
To be honest with you, Sean, how many times have we talked about on this podcast? I think if you look at the NFL traditionally, historically, the better recipe for success is being more fundamentally sound and giving up less space than just relying on turnovers all the time. Like, hey, giving up 170 passing yards a game because you're a good defense and you're fundamentally sound and you play tight and you don't give a lot of open space to the opposing team is a much better recipe for winning a championship than we give up 400 passing yards a game, but we do get those 2 interceptions. Like, that's not going to last forever. That's not going to last. I think the Bears knew that, and they're addressing.
They didn't have that many turnovers. If you look at it historically, the Bears, I think, hold the record for the most turnovers in a season with like 68 or something like that. It's ridiculous. And the Bears have what, like 23, 25? 35. Okay, so half of that, basically. You know what I mean? So it's not even historically like that great of a season turnover-wise. It was good because they led the league, but I don't think defenses are really predicated on the turnover anymore, the takeaway. In the 2000s, those Bears, that's all it was takeaway, right? Takeaway. And I don't know if that was actually a planned scheme or it just turned out to be like, hey, we got this guy Peanut that knocks the ball out of everybody's hands. We have this world beater middle linebacker who can actually jump like 5 feet in the air and intercept the ball at any second's notice. We've got, another really great safety in Mike Brown. I think it might have just been the way that the Bears played and they just accentuated. Sometimes as a coach, you got to stick. You got to go with what you got. You know what I mean? You only have the players you have, and if you see a talent somewhere, you're gonna focus on it. Now, I know Al Harris is a big turnover guy, so in that aspect, I don't see any reason why he's not going to still be preaching turnovers, right? But I think with what Dennis Allen said is we're going to focus more not on scheme, but more on fundamentals. That could also mean being in the right spot at the right time. Kevin Byard got a lot of his turnovers because he would bait quarterbacks. That's just an experienced, really smart veteran that knows what he's doing. We've got much younger guys in the team now, so they're going to have to be put into a situation where, hey, this is your assignment. This is your assignment. Be here. Run towards the ball, game tackle. I've always said that the Bears in the past have had really crappy tackling since Brian Urlacher's era left, and we need to get better at tackling too. Sometimes just a bunch of guys. What's that?
No, I just was answering Romy with the Bears trade verse to the Bears. I said that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. I think he was the prized possession. I think that's what they needed to make.
Yeah,
from what I understand, the other team that they were interested in trading with was the Eagles, and they wanted
Carter.
Jalen Carter. They wanted a young defensive stud on the line somewhere. They wanted one of those young defensive studs. That's the only way. And the Bears don't have one. And I'm not saying Austin Booker can't become one, but at this point in his career, he's not. And another thing that really bothers me when I talking to Bears fans is when you talk about Colston Loveland and a slow start, when you talk about Luther Burden and a slow start, they had to get integrated into the offense. Talk about Caleb Williams and his low completion percentage, because it takes a while. He's got so much going on mentally because he's trying to learn the scheme of this offense that he can't focus on just making football plays. They get all these excuses. But when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, Montez Sweat doesn't get to adjust to Dennis Allen's defense. Austin Booker doesn't get to adjust to Dennis Allen's defense. None of these guys get to adjust in any way, shape, or form. There's no adjustment period for the defense. That's not fair. Like, if all the guys on offense get this adjustment period, and when they have to learn a brand new scheme and a brand new offense, the defense is going through the same thing, guys. They're going through the same thing. They're thinking about what the play call is, the terminology, instead of just making football plays. And I bet you that every single player on that Bears defense that was here last year is going to play just a step faster, because they're not spending so much time mentally on trying to decipher what play that was just called.
100%.
They're just going to make football plays. And just based off of that, and based off of health alone, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, the entire linebacking core, all Terrell Smith, all those guys, just based off of health alone, if you can just get half those guys back to play an entire season, I think the Bears by default are already a better defense than they were. And you saw it in the playoffs.
Let's say 15.
You saw it in the playoffs.
15. 15 is not world breaker. It's not going to make the news. But if you have a top 15 defense, let's say not by yardage, but by points allowed, because that's really the only stat that matters in defensive football is points allowed. If they can hold teams to 20 points, the Bears are going to score a lot more than 20 points per week. So I think that's got to be the goal for them, right? Hold teams to 20 points. And, to your point about the defensive staff, the players, dude, this defense looks almost entirely different than it did 2 years ago.
100%.
Yes.
It's almost an entirely different crew.
I mean, they basically were like, hey, Eberflus, everything you wanted, we don't want. We don't want any of that shit. And I like that. I like that they're like, well, we saw how it worked with Eberflus here. Let's make some adjustments. Dennis, you go get your guys and you run the scheme you want. I love what the Bears are doing. Here's the point. I'm going to say it again, and people are going to get sick of it. Rome was not built, and you can't turn over an entire defense, all 11 starters in one offseason. It's not possible.
They had to revamp their staff, their coaching staff. They had to revamp their players, their personnel. They had to revamp the culture. They had to improve things around literally the whole entire organization needed to be rebuilt.
Well, and Jason, now we're at a point. Sorry, Sean, real quick. Now we're at a point now where now we have to worry about coaches being hired away from the Bears. We've never had to worry about that before. Yeah. We've never been in the situation. Now the Bears not only have to focus on making sure these players are making progression in the schemes and these offensive and defensive schemes, they also have to worry about going to replace all the coaches that get hired away from us because we have a success. This is a brand new team. It's a brand new situation for Bears fans. We've never been in this situation. At least not me. You guys have. I haven't.
And let's say, ladies and gentlemen, we will all start to figure this out, move the chess pieces around, and see if we're really playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers in 73 days, as the Chicago Bears will kick off their preseason on August 15th at home, their only home preseason game of the year, versus the Cleveland Browns and Jared Verse, the well-talked about man, who probably won't be on the field for that game to begin with. And then just 9 days prior, we get to watch football for the first time this year as the preseason television schedule, national schedule, was released. And always the first game of the year is the Hall of Fame game on August 6th, which is just 64 days away till we get to see some real football on television. I cannot wait. I'm super excited about this. I like football's back. I'm like, when I look at the Bears and say, okay, we got, so many days here, like, oh, let's go. Come on now.
And hopefully for the Bengals' sake, this joint practice that they've scheduled before that Bengals preseason game goes a lot better for the Bengals than it did last. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but that joint practice in 2024 between the Bears and Bengals, 2 Bengals tore their ACL that day. And it was a wet, sloppy field. It was raining. It was disgusting out. Hopefully it goes better for the Bengals this year. But yeah, I like that. Ben, sir. I love, like Jason, you always talk about how Ben's always thinking ahead. This guy is already calling these coaches like, hey, you guys want to do joint practice? like, I know it's 73 days away, but you guys down for joint practice? Like, he is always a step ahead. He's always thinking ahead, and I absolutely love it.
And as we're thinking ahead, as we turn the page to Caleb's arsenal, because I've never been so clear. It's never been so clear in my mind that the Chicago Bears, I believe, have a number one wide receiver on their football team. And not only a number one wide receiver, but an elite wide receiver.
And Sean, before you give away your guy, I just want to introduce this this segment and say who will finishes the Bears 2026 season as the primary focus on the offensive side of the ball. But the departures of Zacchaeus and in free agency and DJ Moore via the trade to the Buffalo Bills, the Bears have now 150 targets have been vacated by those two players. So who is going to step up and take those targets? Is it going to be a collective, or is there going to be a true number one? And Sean, who do you think the true number one is?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Ben Johnson isn't coming out saying he's buying the stock on Rome Odunze. Now, is he? He said, I'm buying stock on one Luther Burden, and I'm going to tell you why. He's the number one wide receiver on this team. 7.2 yards of yak per reception, was top 3 in the NFL last year. 71% catch rate versus Rome's 47%. If you want to talk fantasy, 2.7 points per fantasy per target was the 6th highest in the league. The efficiency gap is also real. Burden among qualified wide receivers, 79.3 grade, 18th among quality or qualified wide receivers at only 60 targets as a rookie. Now you want to talk about targets? Let's do the target math next. Rome Odunze, 90 targets, 661 yards. What does that sheet say that's on the screen right now? 60 targets, 652 yards. Nearly identical production on 30 fewer opportunities for Burden. Caleb Williams' passer rating when targeting Burden last year, 123.1. Going into his second full season has in Ben Johnson's offense. And yes, I'll say it again. When asked about Luther Burden, he said, I'm buying all of Luther Burden stock I can. I am 100% sold. Now, I have another little thing. This came out from Dan Wiederer today. And he said the most alarming comment out of Hallis Hall had to do with Rome Odunze, with his injured foot. And this was the comment from Rome Odunze. He said, this is my new normal. It's from this standpoint, I'm always in pain from when I broke my foot. There's calluses in there that create a different type of foot structure with those bones, different types of things that kind of shift things around. So this is my new normal. I don't know what to take away.
I didn't see that. Gross.
I am not.
That sucks.
I am not out on Rome Odunze. I have always said I firmly believe Rome Odunze has a strong slot on this team as a Michael Pittman type possession receiver, a guy who can get into the soft spot, get open, and get you that 7-yard catch, fall to the ground, do whatever. I am perfectly fine with that. I just think when it comes to explosive rate, having one of the quickest first steps, which I believe last year he was ranked first or second in first step off the line, Luther Burden is everything he's supposed to be. And if you listen to him today, all he says is, I'm going to prove to everyone this year I am who I say I am, and that's the man. I love that today in his press conference. You guys have fun with that.
Yeah, well, and there's an interesting statistic from last year, real quick. Colston Loveland, 16 games played, 11 games started, 713 yards. And 11 starts, 713 yards. Rome Odunze, 12 games started, 661 yards. Luther Burden, 5 games started, 652 yards. I mean, you guys, if we've heard scouts say before the draft that Luther Burden's ceiling is that of Antonio Brown. He might be the next Drake London, a guy who's not just possession receiver, but when he catches the ball, he makes things happen afterwards. If that's the case, if he reaches that ceiling that we've been told he's capable of, I don't see how you cannot point to Luther Burden and say he is the most talented player on this team outside of Caleb Williams. And I love Colston Loveland. You guys know that. And I think there's a chance Colston Loveland might lead the team in targets, but I think that Luther does more with the targets he gets than Colston Loveland does. That's just
and honestly, look, all those Luther Burden points are great. I love them. I love the player. I think that's it was a steal. We all said it was a steal last year in the draft. I think he needed a little bit of time because really wasn't in the full training camp cycle. Not every guy's going to learn, something as complicated as Ben Johnson's offense at the same rate. But I would like to see from him get his average yards per route run up. He was under 9 yards. That's one thing that Rome does have on him. Now, what is interesting to me is I think the touchdowns are going to go up and his yards are going to go up. But with this now new, I think, more 13 personnel, I don't know how that's going to affect the wide receivers as much because you're not going to have 3 wide, right? A whole lot. So who is going to be getting those reps? I think it's very interesting. Now, in a perfect world, the Bears are moving the ball. We're scoring a lot of points, and everybody's got chances and targets and opportunities to score points. That's great. Right now, if I were to base it just off of what happened last year, I think Colston Loveland is the number 1 wide receiver on the team. He's not a wide receiver, so by default, he can't be wide receiver 1. But he may, lead the team in targets, receptions, yardage, and touchdowns again. It's very possible. I just don't know what the offense is going to look like. Now, it's also possible. Somebody said, I think maybe Scottish Bear, somebody, it looks like maybe Rome might have some more touchdowns, but you're going to see much more yardage out of Luther Burden. That could be. You could see, let's say, 8 or 9 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns, but all like 4 or 5 yard touchdowns in the end zone from Rome Odunze. And you might see 7, 8 touchdowns from Luther Burden, but with 1,100 yards, right? I mean, that to me would signify that he is now here in the league and teams better watch out for him. I think everybody's already watching out for Colston Loveland. I think the one thing that was really impressive with Luther Burden was his catch rate. He had the highest catch rate on the team outside of Caleb Williams, who was like 2 for 2. He had a touchdown and a whatever reception. He's the number 2 guy for catch rate at like 78.5% or 78.3%. That's impressive for a rookie, especially receiving these super hot balls coming from Caleb Williams. So I'm interested to see how this 13 personnel works. I'm interested to see how they remedy Caleb's completion percentage. If he gets up to that 65%, let's say, there's going to be a lot more receptions by all these guys, all of them.
Go ahead. They ran a lot of 12 and 13 personnel in Detroit, but somebody who never left the field was Amon-Ra St. Brown. If Ben Johnson believes that Luther Burden is his next Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who's just special, undeniable talent, it's almost impossible to take him off the field because he gives you the best chance to win. I'm sorry, guys. And Ben Johnson loved Sam Laporta. He picked him. He loved him. That was his guy. And I understand that Colston Loveland is a better tight end than Sam Laporta. I understand that. But at the end of the day, and Jason, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not just disagreeing with everybody in the chat. All this is all speculation. We could put ourselves out here today on this show. I am taking Luther Burden to lead this team in catches and yards, not targets and not touchdowns, but catches and yards. I think Luther Burden is going to end up being number 1.
Yeah.
I think for me, when you get into this 13 personnel talk and the 12 personnel, when you get into 13, you have 1 wide receiver on the field, 1 running back. I think this is somewhere where you start looking at Xavier Thomas, or maybe even getting into having Luther Burden on the field, Xavier Thomas in the backfield, and he can swing out with the 2 tight ends on the field, where you can get really fancy with things. But if you go into the 12 personnel, I do believe it would be Rome and obviously Luther Burden, the 2 wide receivers on the field. I'm really interested to see how the 13 personnel will work. I'm not saying, I think someone said I'm not buying the more 13 personnel. Maybe it won't, but I think 13 personnel for the Bears this year is very interesting with the weapons that they have, because you see when you watch the college tape of Xavier Thomas, he can take a halfback pitch and he can take it to the house. He's very dynamic and shifty out of the backfield. I think there's some things that Ben's going to draw up that are going to be head scratchers to the defense on the other side, and the Bears are going to be able to exploit some things with their speed when Burden and maybe you have Thomas on the field, and maybe even if it's DeAndre Swift as that running back. But I'm very interested, more so than when I drafted him, and the more that I look into Xavier Thomas, the more I get interested in the way that Ben Johnson can deploy him in that offense and the different things and the, just the shifty things that he can do with them, even jet sweeps and curls up the sideline, taking up the boundary out of the backfield. I'm kind of more intrigued now than I was on draft day with what Ben can do with that weapon.
Sean, it's confusing. It's almost like, because if you look at the numbers for all the receiving stats, nobody had over, I think, Loveland had the most yards at 713. You had 3 guys with over 600, and then the rest was pretty much split evenly between the running backs and, Cole Kmet and whatever. So, Cole Kmet had a couple of like mild injuries where he sat out a half a game or a game here or there. But they were using him. I was just watching their highlights. They were using him a lot in those big time plays, him and Rome. I would maybe expect to see that, those third downs absolutely need a catch for a first down. You might see that still. But, man, when's the last time you've seen so many weapons on the Bears where you really just don't know where the ball's going to go? It can go anywhere. Anybody could be getting the ball.
I just think when you talk about, I think that Loveland is capable of being a top 5 tight end in the NFL. Probably already is. Okay, right? And I think Burden is capable of being a top 5-10 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Okay. Well, you guys, if you look at the top 5-10 receivers in the NFL, they're usually more productive than the number 1 tight end in the NFL. They're usually all 8, 9 of the top 8 receivers are usually more. They have more yards
now,
than
Kyle,
the top tight end.
If they use Colston Loveland more as a hybrid wide receiver type,
well, I mean, that's what Travis
1,000 to 1,200 yards.
That's right? What Travis Kelce was used as. That's what Rob Gronkowski was used as. But they never had 2,000-yard seasons like Jackson Smith-Njigba and CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Like, at the end of the day, wide receivers are just faster. They're more athletic. They make bigger plays out of Luther Burden can turn a 6-yard slant into a 50-yard touchdown. Colston Loveland, as good as he is, he could turn a 6-yard slant into a 20-yard catch, but he's probably not going to turn it into a 60-yard touchdown, right? That's probably he's just not as fast as some of the corners and safeties on the field. I think Luther Burden is capable of burning anybody. I don't know, man. A lot of people are. It seems like some of the people in chat here are not really high on Luther Burden. You guys just remember we could all go out here and put our predictions out. I think Luther Burden's going to lead this team in yards, and I think it's going to be by a substantial amount. I think you're talking about Luther Burden getting 1,400 yards, somewhere between there. I think Loveland's going to be somewhere between 11 and 12.
When's the last time? Here's a trivia question for you. When's the last time, and who are the receivers? When's the last time the Bears had 2,000-yard receivers in the same year?
Had to be Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall.
Wrong.
No, I was going to say, I don't think they ever did. 2,000-yard receivers in the same team. It was in
the 90s.
Curtis Conway, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Who played opposite Curtis Conway? Give me a second here. Curtis Conway. It wasn't Marty Booker. He was after. God damn.
I have no idea. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Jeff Graham, 1995.
Oh, Jeff Graham.
I was 7 years old. My football knowledge is pretty substantial, but I don't remember Jeff Graham in any way, shape, or form.
When was the last time the Bears had a 1,000-yard receiving tight end?
It was Mike Ditka, wasn't it?
1961. Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
I do think I do agree. And when I look at Travis Kelce's, I just pulled up his stats to see his best season. His best season in the NFL was 1,338 yards on 110 receptions and 12 touchdowns back in 2022. He actually had 2018, 103, 1336, and 10 touchdowns. And in between all those years, he was a 1,000-yard tight end.
Sean, every year there's 4 or 5 receivers who have 1,400, 1,500, 1,600 yards. Jackson, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, it happens every year. Jamar Chase. I'm sorry, guys. In the NFL, the way it's built, though, number 1 wide receiver is usually more valuable than number 1 tight end. That's just the way the game is played.
You're preaching to the choir here. I'm all in.
No disrespect to Loveland at all. You guys, if Loveland had 1,300 yards, I'd be ecstatic. Be like, holy shit, we have Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce. Holy shit.
How many games did you say Loveland started last year? 12? Was it 12?
12 games started. Luther Burden had 5 games started.
How many yards did he have in 12 games?
713.
So yeah, he very easily could be 17 games under his belt, doesn't miss any time.
He's probably 1,200 yard guy. That's what I think. And I think Luther Burden, if he reaches that ceiling, which is how we started the segment, if he's Antonio Brown, like all the draft experts, this guy, if he reaches his prime, this guy's different. He's special, something you've never seen before. If that's the case, and if just based off the numbers you just gave us, Sean, and based off of the eye test, James, I think Luther Burden is going to be a 1,300 yard guy, a 1,400 guy. So by default, he's probably going to have better stats than Colston Loveland. And that's not knocking Colston Loveland. I think the two of them that's your 1-2 punch. I think that's your 1-2 punch.
No, because
Sean,
when you look at,
Sean, especially if Rome Odunze is dealing with what you just said, I've never even seen that.
If
that's
me,
really
this
the
came,
case,
this came from his mouth from Dan Wiederer, bro.
Then I would expect Luther Burden to get more targets, because it sounds like Rome Odunze is going to miss some games this year, guys.
I mean, I here, it's not from my mouth. This is from his own mouth. And you say the most alarming Hallis Hall comment came today from wide receiver Rome Odunze. So it's coming from Rome Odunze himself, saying my foot is fucked up. I don't know what to say here, guys. Like, hopefully it's not a big deal, because hey, everyone thought Matthew Stafford was going to miss the season based on he had to be in this hyperbolic chamber and he couldn't move his back and bend over, and then he becomes the MVP of the league. So, again, I still think it's lying season. Let's see how it plays out. But again, it's not us making this up. This is from Luther Burden, or this is from Rome Odunze's mouth, saying that his foot structure is different. It's not right. And there's pain in that foot. Like, hey, man, I'm going on 13 weeks of this surgery. I feel them. It sucks. I'm living it firsthand. It absolutely sucks. And my feet will never be the same after the surgery.
No repaired joint, ligament, or bone is ever the same after you've had major surgery. And you guys, listen, I understand, like Scottish says, I rate Burden highly. I just think the way that Ben runs his offense, it's tight and heavy, and the chemistry with Loveland and Williams is special. Listen, I understand that. But you guys, at the end of the day, he ran a bunch of 13 personnel in Detroit, and he loves Sam Laporta. He loved him. He drafted him. He's the one who drafted Sam Laporta. He loved him. And guess what? Amon-Ra St. Brown still had more yards than Sam Laporta every single season that he was in Detroit. I think Luther Burden, he probably considers him to be his Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he didn't draft Rome Odunze. He drafted Luther Burden. That was his guy. And Sean, like you talked about earlier, he comes in this offseason. He has his press conference and goes, I would buy some Luther Burden stock right now if I were you guys. Anybody watching this team, you might want to buy some Luther Burden stock. I think Ben Johnson just told you how special he thinks that kid is. And at the end of the day, it's just easier for receivers to get more yards than the tight ends, because receivers catch 60-yard passes and tight ends rarely do. Now, listen, we saw that game last year against the Bengals where Loveland caught that 25-yard pass and turned it into a 60-yard touchdown. We saw, that's going to happen. And Loveland's probably going to have a few of those. I think Burden will have more. I think Burden is capable of more because he has much better breakaway speed. And Loveland is fast for a tight end, but keywords for a tight end. He's just not as fast as Luther Burden.
J2 made a really good point. He didn't say he was in any type of pain. It just feels different. I don't know, but I think what he might be trying to say is it's probably feeling different coming out of my breaks now. So I don't know when I can cut or when I can do. It's still not a great thing to hear, but hopefully that's something that he can learn.
I can tell you this right now. I did my right foot 3 years ago. I still have pain in my right foot. He doesn't have to say it. I live it every day, and I'm not a freaking athlete, but I do walk on my feet. Your feet are your stability, your structure. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I guarantee you, he's gonna be feeling pain in that foot. He doesn't have to say it. Context clues will tell you you guys, he's gonna feel it.
And the fact that not a single person in the chat has said Rome Odunze. We've seen Colston Loveland, we've seen Luther Burden. Not one person has said Rome Odunze is going to lead this team and be the number one weapon on this team. But you guys, we're here now. We're talking about it right now. Put your money where your mouth is. Everybody in the chat, tell me who you think. You can put your yardage in there. I don't care. Who you think is going to be the number one target on the Bears and how many yards they're going to finish with. I think it's Luther Burden with around 1,300. That's what I think. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
If you look at the couple years that Ben Johnson had Amon-Ra St. Brown, 115 receptions, 119 receptions, 106 receptions, 1,100 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards.
Yeah, and you know what Jason said earlier? Jason said earlier Luther Burden had a very low what was the number?
Average yards per route run.
That
needs to get better.
But I think that's because he's kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown, where they use him at the line of scrimmage a lot. They get him a screen pass, they've set up blocks for him, and he runs.
That's because
Luther Burden's going to play that same role, where a lot of slants, a lot of screen passes, and he's going to be expected to take those to the house for touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown did it. He does it all the time. I think Luther Burden is more than capable as well. I think Luther Burden's going to end up playing. Now they're different players. But I think Luther Burden's going to have a similar role to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think it's going to be like, hey, if we got to get you the ball behind the line of scrimmage, if we got to get you the ball 6 yards deep, if we got to throw you a 50-yard pass, however we can get you the ball, wherever the holes are on this defense where we can take advantage of, Luther, you're going to be the guy who takes advantage of those. Now, listen, I think Loveland's going to have a massive year, especially in obviously you guys, this is all speculated on health, right? All this is barring health. Like if Luther Burden plays 4 games and Loveland plays 17, yeah, Loveland's going to be their number 1 receiver for sure. But yeah, Mikey, I saw yours. You said I think you said 12 to 14 for Luther and just over 1,000 for Loveland and just under 1,000 for Rome. I'm right there with you, Mike. I don't think we're far off. I think we're pretty damn close. I got Luther around 1,300, maybe a little bit over, maybe a little under. I think Loveland will be around that 1,100 yard mark, and I think Rome Odunze will probably be at like that 900 yard mark. And I think I'm safe to say this, guys. This is terrible, and it's a weird prediction, weird speculation. But if this foot thing is true, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rome Odunze gets a couple rest weeks. Would not surprise me any way, shape, or form.
Maybe
Sounds like he's not going to. Would you guys be mind blown if Rome Odunze doesn't play 17 games next year? No, not at all.
Or he's just not on the field as much, and he's rotating.
Yeah, or maybe they give him
Walker.
Yeah, maybe they give him drives off. Like we'll give him a drive off because that foot is bothering him. It's pissing him off. So let's let him sit down for a couple of plays.
If your young wide receivers come up, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that for all your wide receivers.
All I know is in my time watching football, the guys who usually end up playing the biggest roles are the ones who that coach drafted when he was in the building is when they drafted that player. He didn't draft Rome Odunze. He did. You guys, I think have a Sean, you and I talked about this. I think there's a strong chance that if Ben Johnson had been the coach of this team for the last 5 years, Rome Odunze wouldn't be wearing a Bears uniform.
Yeah, probably not.
I think there's a damn good chance. A damn good chance he would not be wearing a Bears uniform.
And Howie, I believe he was saying 2 receivers on the Bears at the same time, not just one.
Yeah, so the question Jason asked is, when's the last time the Bears had 2,000-yard receivers in a single season? That was the question he asked. So, yeah, Curtis Conway.
Here, I think we can all agree on this.
And Alshon Jeffrey had a 1,000-yard season here. Brendan Marshall had a 1,000-yard season here.
Yeah.
They just didn't do it together. And I'll say this. I think we can all agree. The chat, the panel here, I think we all agree that the more balls that are in Luther Burden's hands and Colston Loveland's hands, the better the chances are the Bears are moving the ball and scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree, guys, when it comes to this 1-2 punch of Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, who are probably both going to be extended, because once again, Ben Johnson drafted them. He didn't draft Rome Odunze. He drafted these two. I think you're talking about probably statistically the best tandem in Chicago Bears history. By the time it's all said and done, I think Loveland and Burden might be their 2 leading receivers in Chicago Bears. Remember, guys, right now their leading receiver in Chicago Bears history. I'm not even talking about tight ends or wide receivers or running back. I'm talking about the number 1 pass catcher has barely over 5,000 yards. Like Luther Burden and Loveland are going to pass that in 3 years.
And you want to know the truth?
Maybe 4.
I'm looking at it right now. The 2 years that Laporta was with, and I think this will be a little bit different on the Bears, but Laporta in his 2 years, 86 catches, 60 catches, 889 yards, 726 yards. He did have 17 touchdowns in the 2 years he was with Ben Johnson. But point being, Ben Johnson is the guy who drafted him, and the love still went more to Amon-Ra St. Brown because he likes big plays and big plays. I still think Colston Loveland is going to have splash plays. I think there's a better chance of breakaway speed and Burden's hand.
Sean, there's a good chance Luther Burden's 3 longest touchdowns of the season this year. His 3 longest touchdowns of the season are all longer than Colston Loveland's longest touchdown of the season. There's a very good chance that.
I agree with that.
I mean, you guys, I still agree that Loveland's going to have more touchdowns. I think he's an absolute red zone beast, a monster. But you're talking about short yardage. When you're talking about like that touchdown that Luther Burden caught last year against the Dallas Cowboys, that 75-yard or whatever it was, as much as I love Colston Loveland, when you're talking about air yards, like Colston Loveland's capable of breaking tackles and making plays, but you're talking about air yards, he's probably never going to catch a 75-yard touchdown where 70 yards were in the air. Colston Loveland's probably never going to do that. Luther Burden might do that a lot. He's already done it once, and he only started 5 games. There's a good chance he has 4 or 5 of those this year. And if that's the case, you're talking about 250 yards off those 5 plays alone. 300 yards off those 5 plays alone. I still think that I agree with Mikey here. This is basically very similar to my predictions. Burden, 1,300 plus yards. Loveland, 1,000 plus yards. Rome, 900 yards. I think, Mikey, I don't think you're far off. I think that's, if they're all healthy all season, I think that's pretty much how it's going to play out right there. I really do. I think that's how it's going to play out right there. Something very similar to that. I think Burden is his Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Loveland is a better version of Sam Laporta. Even though Loveland is a better version of Sam Laporta, I don't think that gets you from the 800-yard Laporta to a 1,500-yard Loveland. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Loveland's going to catch a lot of short passes, and he's going to be a huge target on third down and in the red zone. But Luther Burden's going to be the guy you're looking at to extend the field. That's just me personally. I could be wrong. We can't
forget that I think by week 6, Rome Odunze led the league in touchdowns, receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, and I still think Rome Odunze is going to be a huge part of this offense. I just agree with what Sean said earlier. I don't think Rome Odunze is special. No. I think he's a possession receiver. You guys, if Luther Burden is Chad Ochocinco, then Rome Odunze is TJ Hushmanzada.
Which I'm fine with
that. Do you agree with that? And I like, and they were both really good. Yeah. I like both of them, but Chad Ochocinco was more valuable.
Yeah.
Both very good players. Both damn good players, but Chad Ochocinco was special. TJ Hushmanzada was workhorse.
They're different route runners. They're different builds. They're different
speed.
Players. Different speed. Yeah, they're just different players. I don't think you can use them in the same manner. You'll probably see them run some similar routes just to keep defenses honest, but Ben loves to scheme these guys open. So
yeah, and don't be surprised. Don't be surprised at all if even if it's not painful, guys. If his foot truly does feel different, like it's something he's not used to, it feels alien to him. Every time he takes a step, he's stepping on these calluses, whatever he's talking about. Don't be surprised at all if Rome Odunze loses a little bit of a step.
Yeah,
that could very well be true too. You know, and you know what? We're guys, ladies and gentlemen, friends in the chat. On Monday, we're gonna have Zach Pearson on the show, and he has been at all 3 of the Bears OTAs, and we're going to ask him specifically about this quote from Rome Odunze and get into it with him and get his thoughts on it, because unlike us, he's living it firsthand at Hallis Hall. He was at every joint practice, or every OTA over the past 3 weeks. I've been following his reports. He's a friend of the show. I can't wait to get his expert opinion on some of these things that we're talking about and chewing on right now, because he's seeing it firsthand. He's going to know, and I'm going to ask him, hey, from what you see, does Rome Odunze look a little bit different to you with this foot condition, or does he look the same, or is it just too early to tell? You know, we'll find out.
Sean, nobody on this panel or in this chat, assuming nobody else in this chat has had foot surgery, knows better than you do. I mean, only you can know what it feels like to have major foot surgery. And the fact that that injury was sustained in what, week 12, 13 last year, and you're talking about June 3rd, 2026, and he's still saying it just doesn't feel right. It feels off. You guys, I'm not saying this because I'm like trying to cement my argument. Luther Burden's going to end up being their number 1 receiver. I would say this if it was any athlete on any Chicago team in the world. That's not good. That's not a good way to start the offseason for Rome Odunze. Be the first things we've heard out of his mouth since the end of 2025 season is, this foot just feels weird. Doesn't feel the same. Not good. Not good. And I'm not rooting for it. I hope Rome Odunze is an absolute badass. I hope he has 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. To me personally, from what I've seen so far, what has been put on tape, watching Rome Odunze, nothing jumps out at me that says special. The little bit I've seen of Luther Burden, I'm like, I can see the special. I can see it. It's in there. It just has to be maximized. And for a guy who had to learn an offense without having any training camp whatsoever at all, at the end of the season, you started to think special. That guy looks special.
Well, you know, too, if you listen to Luther Burden, you listen to the coaches, and you listen to some of the teammates, they've all said all Luther Burden's done all season has not leave Hallis Hall. He went out to USC to work out with Caleb and the other receivers that went out there when they went out there for a little bit. But
Johnny Walker was out there. Davian Thomas was out there.
Yeah, he said it himself. All I've done this offseason is put in the work. And Ben Johnson said the exact same thing. This guy has barely left this facility the entire offseason. And people soon to forget that, again, I've said this on a million shows in the past, and I'll say it again. This guy going into his draft year was a first-round top 10 pick who had a bad season and slipped to the second round.
Which I'm not disappointed about. I'm happy that happened.
Dude, I'm ecstatic that happened because we got a first-round talent in the second round. I love it.
And you guys, you want some more validity to how much Sean believes in Luther Burden? He played at Missouri.
Yeah.
for Sean to be on this podcast and talking up a guy who played at Missouri is.
I'm really trying to forget that.
If you guys knew Sean, you would know that that's unheard of. That is unheard of. I don't know, man. You guys, and I'm not
I'm
hating
with
on
you,
any,
bitch. Okay.
you guys, and I'm not hating on anybody in the chat. I just want to let that be known. You guys, I love the fact you're all here, and I love this conversation. I could be wrong, and Loveland could end up having 1,300 yards and Luther Burden 11.
100%.
Scottish Bear thinks that's probably going to be vice versa. That Loveland will be that 1,300 guy, and Luther will be right behind him. And if that's the case, I'll be happy either way, because that means you have two absolute badasses on your team, and it means you have a high-powered offense. But for me personally, just my opinion. Once again, I'm going to say it one last time. It's my opinion. I think Luther Burden is probably of the two of them, even though they're both special. Luther Burden will just be a little more special in the Colston.
And I like this here from Scottish, and this is something we should keep in mind, man. He's a former professional boxer and coach, PhD in sports science, conditioning, and injuries, man.
PhD, that's something you never hear from a Packer fan.
Foot and feet injuries are good, are not good, especially when jumping for contested balls. You know, and honestly, these foot injuries have made me change my career. I used to work on roofs. Now I'm just in production because I can't be on these things anymore because my feet can't handle the pressure. These bone problems that I've had have changed my life and changed what I do. And for somebody who uses their feet to push off the line, to cut, to, as Scottish Bear said, jump and come down and bang and put all that weight down on her. This is not good. And again, I love Rome. I have 30 of his rookie cards here. I want this kid to succeed. I don't like this, though. I don't like it at all. I don't like it.
And Romy says here, I don't see us resigning Rome after his rookie contract is up. I'll say this. I do think they'll probably pick up the 5th-year option, or if he's not traded, but I will say this. If Rome doesn't start to do things that we were told he was good at, like contested catches, catch rate, lack of drop rate. If he doesn't improve on those things, I think Ben Johnson will go get another one of his guys in the draft and say, hey, Ryan, I know you liked Rome. You drafted him before I was here. Not my style of player. I'm going to go get my guy.
He might have him in Jade Walker, man. He might have him in Walker.
Or Xavier Thomas. Xavier Thomas might be that might end up being his number 2. Maybe he thinks Burton's his 1 and Xavier Thomas is his 2.
I'll tell you,
I'm
very excited because I don't know. You read Zach's OTA report today. I'm very excited.
2 one-handed catches in the last 2 days. Yep. Xavier Thomas looks special.
I'm really excited to get him on here and hear his, eye view of what he saw and how excited we all should be about the potential for these wide receivers on this Bears team. Because here I'm with you. I think Burton's special. Xavier Thomas is growing on me pretty damn quickly. I wish I would have met him on Sunday. I had the opportunity, and I met Neil Anderson instead. Sorry, I'm an old Bears fan, and meeting Neil Anderson was pretty.
Neil's a good one.
Yeah, I don't even know if I showed you this, Jay. Check that shit out. Neil,
hell yeah,
Neil Anderson, baby. He was awesome. I talked to him about torching the Packers in November of '88. I asked him, I told him you impressed us all being a 4-time Pro Bowler, stepping in after a retired Walter Payton.
The greatest guy in the world. You got to follow that back. Yeah,
he had a hard job, dude. He had a hard job, man.
What's going to be fun about this season for us in particular, and this wide receiver group in particular, is the fact that we're so used to the Bears bringing in guys like Brandon Marshall or trading for guys because they've just never been good at drafting those top tier talented wide receiver ones. I mean, like earlier in the chat, I think it was J2K or James, who was the best 1st round wide receiver the Bears have ever drafted. There's not many of them. I can tell you that as a Bears fan, I haven't seen many of them. For the first time in my life, I'm like, what's the ceiling of Luther Burden? What's the ceiling of Xavier Thomas? What's the ceiling of Jade Walker? I am so excited to see what these guys are capable of. And if it goes the way I think it's going to go, I think that this Bears team is going to have one prolific, tough to stop, badass offense, especially because you now have probably one of the best play callers in all of the NFL and Ben Johnson. And I think he should champion at the bit to see what he could do with these guys. I think he's ecstatic to see what he could do with these guys. It's going to be fun, man. This is going to be a fun year of Chicago Bears football because every week somebody else is going to surprise us. We're going to be like, oh, man, Jade Walker could do that. Xavier Thomas could do, holy shit. Sam Roush runs over people. Every week is going to be something new and something fun and something interesting. And it's just it's first time in my life and first time in a very long time, I should say, very long time. I am just antsy to see the season. Like I really don't
I
give a
know
shit
you
about
do.
the offseason. I want to see next year.
I don't even want preseason either.
Yeah, like I've always looked forward to the draft and free agency for once in my life. I'm like, I want to see the Bears on the field, like right now.
Dude, I do. I am looking forward to the preseason, though, to be honest with you, because that's where we're going to see a lot of these young players.
sure,
that's where we're going to
sure,
see Xavion. That's where we're
Yeah,
going to
that's
see
where-
Jade Moore. That's
yeah,
where we're going to
Yeah,
see.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Jason, that might be where they get the most playing time. They may not get that a lot of playing time in the regular
No.
season, but they'll get a lot in the preseason for sure. They'll get a ton.
And not to sideline it, but check this out, Jay. Yeah, that's his. I think that was his daughter sitting behind him. I hope so.
Bored.
Anyways,
Okay, Dad. Whatever. Sign your
Yeah.
helmet. Let's go.
Well, and
Yeah,
Jason, you guys see Howie's chat here?
Oh yeah.
yeah, I hope everything comes to fruition. I hope, unlike our Chicago Cubs, the Bears are blessed with health, and we don't have to endure like we did last year. Austin Booker getting hurt, Colston Loveland coming in with the rebuilt shoulder, then Luther Burden with the hammy. I just hope that they can get through this training camp. They can stay healthy. We get out of July through August, and we get to September. What's the opening day? 13th. Whatever that Sunday is that the Bears open in Carolina. That this team is healthy, and we actually get to see the full picture of what Ben Johnson's putting together, because I think it's going to be very interesting. And not to be selfish, I really hope we get to see it the following Sunday when the three of us are present at Soldier Field against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I just want to see the Bears put up like 35 points every game. I can't wait for it.
The greatest show on grass. Yeah, that's right, baby.
Yeah, and do you guys want anything else you guys want to say about the Arsenal and Caleb Williams? Because there's a couple names I want to go over when it comes to trade options for the Bears defensive end. Obviously they missed out on Myles Garrett. It sounds like Max Crosby's probably going to stay put, but I think there are still some options, you guys. So
sure.
Real quick, I don't know if you guys saw the latest article that Jeremy Fowler wrote, but he's basically came out and said, since the acquisition of Myles Garrett, I think the Rams are going to be much more inclined to trading both Byron Young and Kobie Turner. If you remember, guys, at the end of the season, they're both free agents. They both had played 3 seasons in the NFL so far. So if they don't trade them, they're going to walk at the end of the season as free agents.
I don't think they're going to trade him.
He believes that neither of them will be re-signed in LA.
That I agree with, because they won't be able to afford them.
Yeah, so there's a chance that maybe one of these guys gets traded. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying there's a chance. And then you have guys like obviously Kayvon Thibodeau, Josh Sweat, Max Crosby. Those guys I would still continue to keep eyes on, especially if the Raiders start out like 0-8. I think there's a good chance Max Crosby's on his way out. But when it comes to those guys, Byron Young, 3 professional seasons, 27.5 sacks. Kobie Turner, 24 sacks through 3 seasons. Kayvon Thibodeau, 23.5 sacks through 4 seasons. And then obviously have Josh Sweat, 55 through 8, and Max Crosby, 69.5 through 7. If the Bears decide that they're not happy with the defensive end or the defensive line room that they have right now, I would not be surprised at all if a guy who's a little less expensive than, say, Myles Garrett and doesn't cost you 10 draft picks, I would not be surprised at all if one of these guys is on the Bears' radar at some point this season. So just something to keep your eye on, something I thought was interesting. I love Jeremy Fowler. I read a lot of his stuff. I think he does a really good job. So if one of those guys becomes available, like a Byron Young, I would be ecstatic if the Bears went and got somebody like that.
Byron Young would be great. But looking at some of those free agents though that are still out there, we might see some of these guys get moved in like July. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to get picked up now, which means their value is just going to go down. I'm always up for a trade for a guy like Byron Young, or Kobie Turner's a young stud too. But if we can pick up a guy that's going to help bolster the line for $4 or $5 million for 1 year, I'm not opposed to that either. And like I said, I want that draft capital. I'm just being a little hoardy with my my draft picks here, but I think if you're still in the process of building a team, there's nothing more valuable than draft picks.
Sure. But if you get Byron Young for, say, a 3rd round, say the Rams are like, we want that 3rd round pick back that we traded away from Myles Garrett. We want that 3rd round pick. So we're gonna ding Byron Young or Kobie Turner out there. If you're talking about a 3rd or 4th round pick, for a guy who is a proven talent that I think has lived in the shadow of a lot of other guys on the Los Angeles Rams, Jared Verse, Myles Garrett, obviously Aaron Donald left some pretty big shoes to fill. I'm all for it, man. I think Byron Young is underrated.
And to
Damn good
J2K, Adam Schefter did put a nail in the coffin of Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat is not being traded.
Yeah, but once again, I think it's one of the, they always say like
Cleveland said they weren't ever going to trade Garrett.
Yeah, and Micah Parsons was never leaving Dallas, right? But I think it's one of those situations that it develops where the Cardinals, Sean, you went over the Cardinals schedule. If one of those situations, if they start up 1-7 and they're like, man, this team's going nowhere.
Well, that's a different story. I think he's more referring to like right now.
I agree with, and I believe that because from what I understand, guys, I read a couple articles from a couple different sports writers who said that the Green Bay Packers have not even talked to the Arizona Cardinals about Josh Sweat. There's not even been a conversation. The only reason that rumor started is because Jonathan Gannon's in Green Bay. It had nothing to do with anything that had anything to do with anything with merit. Like no calls were made, nothing like that happened. I would not be surprised though at all, guys. If he really is as unhappy as they say he is, don't be surprised at all if Josh Sweat does not finish the season in Arizona.
Yeah,
or just doesn't finish the season there. I wouldn't be. Jason, you just said it. Browns, we're never trading Myles Garrett. Never going to happen. Cowboys, Micah Parsons is a Cowboy for life. Yeah, well,
I'll say that the final numbers are in, and Falcons wide receiver Drake London just signed his 4-year, $140 million extension. Worth up to $150 million with a whopping $100 million guaranteed.
Dang.
His agent Andrew Kessler just became a very rich man.
Grab that bag, son.
London now becomes the third highest paid wide receiver in the league with the highest average per year.
Wow.
So
yeah, he'd probably be top 5. Drake London has quietly, because that Falcons team just never really does much, but Drake London has quietly been one of the most reliable and best receivers in the NFL.
Yeah,
and I think
you pair him with a really good quarterback. Woo.
Well, and I think the better he gets, it opens things up for Kyle Pitts more and more.
Yeah,
because the last 2 seasons, Drake London is on a different level, man. He's become one of the best receivers in the NFL, certainly in fantasy.
Yeah.
Look, and the Steelers, breaking news, Bruce says the Steelers and tight end Darnell Washington have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $42 million extension. Man.
Darnell Washington is a scary man.
Yeah, but I don't know. You think he's worth $42 million? from what he's done in the NFL, you think he's worth $42 million?
No, I don't.
That's big money for a tight end who doesn't really have all that much production.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Yeah, I don't know if I would personally do it, but
Yeah, and what do you want to bet? The one who negotiated that contract for Drake London was probably Ian Cunningham, but he's not the guy. He didn't
even have 1,000 yards last year, dude. That's a big signing for them. I mean,
yeah, and they did lose Jonnu Smith, I believe, right? He left the team, so now it's going to be Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. So you probably expect Washington's numbers to go up a little bit because they lost that production from Jonnu Smith, but $42 million for a guy who I think still has a lot to prove in this league. I mean, I will say though, Sean, I agree. Like when that guy has the ball in his hands, if I was like one of those small secondary guys, one of those defensive backs, I want nothing to do with that guy.
I might trip over my own shoe on accident.
Yeah, that's like even when
business decision.
Yeah, even when you're a badass, tough nose player who's a damn good player in the NFL, Washington can knock you the fuck out, man. That guy is huge, dude.
He's a scary man running with the football,
dude. He's
man.
Mike Allstott as a tight end, bro. He's scary, dude. He's a scary dude.
Yeah, I agree, Dustin. I'm not really surprised by this, at all.
Yeah, I still got 3. There's still 3 guys I have ranked ahead of Drake London, but yeah, I
he's
mean,
the number 1.
Yeah, we're not far off.
I wouldn't say top 3 receiver, but I think
I'd still take CD, 10. Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase over him. But yeah, he's definitely in that conversation. He's at the top.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Jackson Smith.
Like
I said, I think top 10, not top 3, but.
Either way,
Drake London was 21st in yardage last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't he miss a bunch of time?
He did miss. I think he did miss some time last year.
I mean, Drake London's a badass.
Drake London's a really good football player. Another guy I'm sitting on 100 of his rookie cards waiting for him to just explode. But now they just got paid. Maybe it's time to send those suckers in. Although PSA just canceled orders for the next 4 months.
No.
Yeah, they're like 100 million cards behind, dude. They still have my cards from freaking February, dude. I might get them back by the time football season ends. This pace.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here, man? We've hit that 2-hour mark again here. I think we've done a pretty good job. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Howie, Dustin. I mean, I guess
You know what?
Chat was live today.
Paul,
Really good.
Yeah, J2K, Scottish Bear,
Yeah, chat was great.
Howie,
Sure.
the list, James Christo, Paul Rodriguez. I think Romy was in the house. Erica was here. Mike was in the house.
Bruce is in the house.
Phil was in the house. Plank was in the house. I mean, the list goes on and on. D. Levine was in the house, man.
Yeah, very active
Yeah,
today, guys.
yeah.
Yeah, man, you guys absolutely killed it today. Thank you so much for being here, man. I think people are starting to get more and more excited about football the closer we get to these dates, like those preseason games that Sean put up there. And I expect there to be a lot of activity between now and then, man. I don't think the Bears' defensive line room is finished, and I think at some point you're going to at least they're going to bring some guys in here for workouts at some point.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate that. And for the chat, we're going to give you one of these. Yeah, fuck those guys. Fuck the Packers, man. I love that. I love that, man. I love that, man. He's going to have a statue in front of whatever stadium they decide to build, wherever they build it, whether it's Hammond, Indiana, Chicago, or the freaking moon, or wherever they build put cranes in the air and shovels in the ground, as Kevin Warren likes to say.
I wouldn't be surprised if we finish that space station on the moon before the Bears finish. I'm not kidding, bro. They already have like equipment up there. They've already started digging.
Yeah, because NASA has their shit together.
Well, they have more money than God too. So, yeah, love you all. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for you guys. It's been one of our healthier shows in the last couple months here. Obviously,
Hey, hold on one second. Hey, Howie, you forget. Is D. Pete Darren Peterson? I got you. I missed that.
Yeah, we love you guys.
We love y'all.
Go Bears.
Hey, don't forget tomorrow the bare minimum will be back about, I think, 9:30, 10:15. Just look for the thumbnail. We'll get it blasted out tomorrow.
Dude, that's way past my bedtime.
Then you have to do what I do and listen to it on your way to work.
Well,
Yes. But if I can't finish it, I can listen on the way back, right?
Way home. Yes, definitely. I got 50 minutes one way and 50 minutes the other. So keep it under 2 hours, guys, or I won't be able to finish. Hey, have a great week, J2K, man. Thanks for coming out, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, love you guys, man. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, man.
Hey, Plank, it was great to see you back, man. Don't take so long until we see you again, brother. And Scottish, you too. We love you guys, man.
Phil, hope everything's all right, man. Speedy recovery.
Philly! All right, guys. Peace and love.
yeah.